A lot of people living that in that fear of God know, like fear of getting old, fear of being weak, fear of being sick, fear of whatever. So they don't seeing that and live the full life.
Welcome, everybody, to the Warrior Podcast. I have a special guest today. I met her through our Keller Williams real estate company. She has a specific niche with her fiance, Andrew. They're not as much realtors as they are investors and property flippers. They got awesome stuff on Facebook, and property flipping is tough. But more importantly, she is a coach for NLP, which is Neuro-Linguistic Programming. We're going to talk a lot about the power of the mind today. And with that, please help me welcome my guest, Aleksandra Stojanovic. Yes? Did I get that okay?
Yes.
Awesome.
That's one of the best American.
Yeah, okay. So you are here via Serbia.
Yes.
So tell me about life in Serbia and growing up.
I was lucky to be born in Serbia when Tito, a lot of people know Tito as a president. Everyone loved that guy. I think personally that he was social genius and he knew exactly how to play a dangerous game between the West and the East side when the Cold War was present. I was born in 1970s, and in that time, it was a golden time in Serbia. Like we could travel anywhere we want in the Europe, like America, anywhere in the world, pretty much. Everyone was greeting us. Everyone loved Tito, and like economy was strong. It was like really perfect life.
So I'm not good with world geography. So Serbia was communism encroaching in Serbia. What
so
happened
that was
there?
actually Yugoslavia in that time.
Okay.
It was Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, Montenegro, and Macedonia. So we were like all together, and it was really beautiful because we, as a republics in that time, had like everyone. Slovenia has beautiful mountains. Serbia has two, but Slovenia was part of the Alps. So if you want skiing, you're going. Everyone know about Dalmatia and Croatian like side of the Adriatic Sea and Montenegro. So if you want to enjoy in the Adriatic Sea, like it's fun fact, a lot of my American friends dreaming going to Croatia. I was like, yeah, I grew up there every summer. So it's really beautiful. You should go. And like Bosnia and Herzegovina was also mountains. The point is that we all have that respect for each other. We were not, officially I think we were communists. To be honest, I'm not quite sure, but I think we were. But not the communist as China or Russia. Like somehow Tito escaped to be part of that Russian SSR. It's actually that time was SSR actually. That were the Poland and Hungary, Romania, like they all were like under the Russia. So we somehow escaped that. So we will really bridge between NATO and Western side and the Eastern Bloc. So, and it was great. And I mean, we didn't like everyone was respect each other. Like there was no like leading religion. Croatian and Slovenian stay as Catholics. In Bosnia, some parts South Serbia and Macedonia, you have a lot of Muslims. We were like Orthodox. So like when you look, so it's like a three major religions and people really loved each other. Like marriages, everything was, in my eye of the little girl, was perfect. There is no any separation until it happens.
So I know a lot of Serbian people, and my next door neighbors are Serbian, and their son got married, and oh my God, you people throw a party. There's 7 days of party, and they flew in a band from Serbia, crazy, right?
Yes.
So it was interesting.
You have like almost like a school band, right? Or what band they flew?
I don't remember, but they were a pretty notorious band out over there. So they told Dorothy and I, come over. We did. No, you got to come over every day for the party, right? So
yeah. So the in Serbia, usually we do everything 3 days. Even the Christmas is 3 days. So of course, wedding is 3 days, and we are serious in 3 days. So first day is the biggest one. Then the second day, it's a lot of good customs, and like everyone get drunk and then wake up in the morning with nothing happened, just change the dress and just go again. And then the third day, and it's like,
Is there a liquor that they drink? Is it a plum wine or something? What is
the plum slivovica.
Yeah, okay, because they every time they come here when we have a function, they bring a bottle of that. So.
Oh yeah, did you try?
Oh yeah, it's good. It's strong and it's just good.
Yeah,
So,
my friends refusing. They try only once, and then after that get red in the face. I was like, no, but no bacteria. Like
that's right.
like COVID, you just gargle. Sorry for that. Like you gargle it a little bit, and it's perfect.
Nice. Okay, so talk about your childhood a little bit and growing up, where everybody gets along, right? All the different groups of people.
Outside, like everything is really, really good. So my parents divorced when I was a baby. So unfortunately, I never met my father until he died.
Wow.
But it's like when you're surrounded with love, you actually don't missing. So I even didn't know that I'm missing a father because somehow my grandfather took that role. And I knew that he's my grandfather, but he was like really that steady, silent figure, very strong figure in my childhood. And he wasn't that expressive in emotions, but the craziest like experiences I had as a child, it's always coming with him. Like my first experience with handling mice was with him in the basement. I didn't know that I will continue later on moving forward on the UIC on the research, but I will talk about that later. Then going on to frozen lake in the middle, like we just kiting on that. When we came home, he barely survived attack of my grandma. As completely irresponsible going with his motorcycle, and we were flying on the highway again. My grandma almost killed him. So like all these like random, like a crazy experiences was really related to him. He was always showing me stuff, and maybe the major lesson I learned from him is watch and learn. He didn't talk too much. He didn't explain to me, but he said, if you watch and you are like now I can say if you are present, but he would tell me, if you watch carefully, you will see it. And maybe that's how I developed now. If you let me to see something, I'm still in it. It's just simply going like this. So.
And you told me before we started that, you have an adventurous spirit. Did you get part of that from your grandpa?
Yeah. So my grandma is also like, she was like different from him. So she loved to travel. She was like more social. He was in boxing. Actually, he was a president of a boxing club. He was crazy about boxing. One of these crazy adventures, he was teaching me to be a boxer. When my mom got involved and said, if you make a man from me, you will not make a man from her. So then he was singing really and playing multiple instruments. Like that was his thing. And my grandma was in the crochet and like more like a woman related. But as much as they were like so different, that's what I learned with the relationship. They were like, met through common friends after war. So she even had a child. So he even didn't care. He adopted a son. They started building the life together, even as completely two different personalities. But that deep respect and the way how they handle fights, that's not they didn't fight, but that was like more like a two cats, like fur, and then it's done in 5 seconds, and then they're going in separate rooms. Who feel more guilty, they will come into the room and say, do you want coffee? That was their like, okay.
Yeah, that's the makeup.
Yeah, so it was great. With my grandma too, like I was always feel that love and security. So that's what's really, I think that's when they're saying like the first 7 years of your life, I honestly didn't see anything missing. So maybe that's how when the things start changing through, like economically first in the country, then politically, then war, I kept being like a strong and in some sense normal. didn't deviate, like didn't want to go, like didn't drink, didn't use drugs, didn't go on some bad path. So I kind of choose to go to school and prove myself through that. And of course, like my mom, she's like completely rebel. As they were divorcee in that 1970s, even wherever you live, it was always like almost holding a badge.
Yeah.
And she didn't let no one to really change, or like she would handle that really like bravely. All these attacks, what's coming from this and that person. And she called me very protected from that. So we travel again a lot. She was telling me always that nothing is impossible.
Wow.
So she was the one who always said, if you truly believe in something, go for it. And she never really stopped me as a parent.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's like something what is really, I think it's a gift. So I was really gifted with 3 different personalities, 3 different skill sets, people who really make me who I am now.
Hey, everybody, I wanted to take a moment to thank our sponsors. My dear friend Andy Thompson is the owner and operator of Talon Studios. Talon Studios makes custom knives. This is one of the first knives he made it for me. It's extremely sharp. Everything is made by hand. The handles, the grips, everything. They're beautiful, durable knives. We like to say knives for life. Whether you're a collector or you want knives for utility and function, he even makes the casings for the knives by hand too. Andy works with his son AJ. They are super fine craftsmen, and every knife they put everything, all their heart and soul into their knives. So that's Talon Studios. I will put a link in the description of each of the podcasts, and you'll see their information at the end. I really identify with your story because my father too took off when I was little, and I did meet him later in life, shortly before he died, kind of like you. But my mother was a wild child. Okay, never left her, and thank goodness her parents were alive for a long time. And then she had 7 brothers. So, like you said, you weren't wanting for a father. All your voids were full, right?
Yeah.
And grandparents are a blessing because I always say, when you raise kids and you raise them to adults, you get a master's degree in parenting, but the grandparents are a PhD in parenting, right?
Absolutely.
They have a whole, and it's a blessing for us that they influence us, right?
Yeah. So I would say like during parenting, you see your mistakes. And then
Yes.
as a grandparents, you can just fix that and do it way better. And plus, there is no that stress. When you're young, you're building your career, you have so much to prove and to do something in the life. So it's really balancing and harmonize personal life, social life, financials, everything. So it's kind of like really taking something. So even maybe sometimes we're reacting just because of that stress.
And we'll touch on more of the mindset stuff. But I read about a study that was done with older people, and they said that there's basically 3 phases of our lives if we live long enough.
Yeah.
The first phase is about, learning and achievement and building a foundation. And then the middle phase is go, 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 right? Like you said, raise the kids, make the money, And if you live long enough to get past that phase, you start to think about your legacy. What am I going to leave behind? What am I going to give back?
Absolutely.
So, and that's when you make it to grandparent age. Hopefully you are paying attention, like your grandfather says, and you are wise, because we don't always get wise, right, as we age.
Unfortunately, yeah. So that's something what people got stuck into certain stuff instead of like, even like when you look like, especially this now young girls going on so many surgeries, Botox injections, like all that stupidity. And everyone is so afraid of getting old or get wrinkle here or there. So don't take me wrong. I like to take care of myself and going for facials and like you do, but nothing like that crazy. And I really seeing that getting old is a privilege.
I agree. It's a gift.
Yep. And a lot of people living that in that fear of God no, like fear of getting old, fear of being weak, fear of being sick, fear of die, fear of whatever. So they don't seeing that and live the full life. Because I'm seeing people with their 80s and 90s, they still travel, they live a full life. They have a whole circle of the friends and they're keeping together, they're laughing, that they live really great life.
I have a saying that I like. It's not my saying. You don't stop playing the game because you get old. You get old because you stop playing the game, right?
Absolutely. That's really good said.
And I'm getting into pickleball a lot, and I play with people that are in their 70s and 80s and sometimes in their 90s, and they're still out there. Yeah, they can't move the way they used to, but they still have that competitive fire in them, and it's inspiring to me. That if I live long enough, that feistiness, I could still be doing that stuff, you know?
Yep, that's 100%. Because they said, like, if you don't take care of, like, your relationships, like with the friends and like neighbors or family, you will not have them after 50. If you don't take care of your health and really mindset in your 40s, 50s, you will not have it when you're 70 or 80.
Yeah.
So that's something what's really like being in the game.
You had your grandparents and did you have any siblings?
Yes. So my mom then remarried when I said that certain circumstances changed.
Did you say your grandmother had a child already when she married your grandfather, or no?
Yes, she did too. So that was like some tragic story just after the war. So the man she was engaged and she got pregnant. So because they thought like, getting married in that time, the Communist Party and everything else, we as a family had divided. So half family was communist and half family was with the king.
Oh, wow.
So, and don't ask me how that functioned, but obviously we somehow survived all that. But unfortunately for my grandma, that was bad, like really like something what this guy couldn't go with, because that will be that like a bad, the, how to say, like for his, in like, I'm bleeping now on the English. And he wants to go and progression in career or whatever,
Got you.
promotions or whatever. So that will be literally there like a black mole on this everything. So he literally left her. And that for her was heartbreaking and she was ashamed and everything else.
So he was the communist, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
And then in that time, if you are not 100% white communist, and by white, I don't mean white in the color, but I mean that you don't have any shade on your career on the past, you can really get the promotions becoming, because in that time in Serbia, if you're not communist, you cannot become a CEO of any company. You cannot get any promotions. So, and if you're getting promotions, that means you are checked in many different levels, even your family, your spouse, everyone.
Right.
So again, another very important woman in my life is my great-grandmother.
Wow.
Who lost the husband during the Second World War, like just beginning. The Germans killed in the one day 7,000 men in our city, just because I believe 50, or I forgot now history, how many Germans were like killed. So as revenge, they just pick up people from working and everything. So my great-grandfather was over 7. I believe he was 7'2" or something. He was giant.
Oh, 7 feet tall?
Yeah.
Wow.
And he didn't fight. They just go as a ships. My grandfather, on the other side, survived that. So because he lied. And like when he told his uncle that he knows exactly what some paralegal unit was there and he knew the name and everything. So he said his brother is there. So they just moved him out. That's how my grandfather survived that day. Otherwise, he will be killed and I will not sit here with you. So that's living on my grandma, who has to survive with 2 kids. So she would go and do on the fields and working and everything. So, and she was very wise. And she just protected my grandma and said, you're not the first one and definitely not the last one. This boy is very healthy and that's only what we count. Then my grandfather showed up, who also had a son with Russian girl who didn't want to come with him. She returned back to Russia. So it's kind of all intervened.
Yeah.
So for him was buying with a God is like to, I guess in his brain, like if he raised my grandma's son as his own, he was hoping that somebody in Russia will raise his son as his own.
Oh, wow.
So kind of like deed and karma.
Yeah.
So like that, like that's how they connect and go through like a life together and really respect. I mean, my grandma was going and traveled to Europe. My grandfather will go and watch the movies in the theater, and a lot of people, you know, how you have bad neighbors with a bad talk, how you trust him. He can go like, because he would go and watch like for 5-6 hours, all different movies. He can go and have a fair, this and that. And my grandma was crocheting. It's like, if he know how to do it, and I don't know, who cares? And she never let anyone to go into that. And again, for my grandfather, like, how you let her go and travel, you know, a lot of stuff can happen. He was like, I trust my wife. I know who she is. And she always come back.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So
You guys have a really rich family history, you know?
yeah.
A lot of struggle, and
Yeah.
I think that we go back in time to early 20th century, people, there was no complaining.
Yep.
There's a problem and a solution. You have grit, right?
Yep.
There's no, I don't feel good today. You got to go work. You got to do it. You know, we've lost a lot of that.
Yeah, if you don't grit, you don't survive.
Right.
It was very simple. Like, so my grandfather, when his father died, he was 17. And he's continued working in the restaurant because we have like a restaurant in the, like a downtown of my hometown. And he just simply continued doing what my great grandfather like did. And it's really like you just do what you have to do. And I think that wisdom is like something was holding me and really pushing me through the life. And my motto was always like, whatever I do in the life, there is no guarantee you will succeed. There is no guarantee you will get what you want. But if I look in the mirror and I know I did my best, that's when I'm okay. Even if I didn't get it wasn't the destiny. So going back for my grandma, if you remember when I said that's like, actually, I think maybe we pre-talk about the grief. So that's what helped me when she died, because it was a pain. Losing somebody, I just simply couldn't process that. But like knew it that I did everything what I could for that woman. Like,
how old were you when she died?
20. Between 20. I was like living maybe half an hour away walking. I mean, we walk in Serbia. And I would go, like when my grandfather was sick, I was there like buying her daily milk and bread, because that's something what you're not stuck in the refrigerator, you're buying daily. So I was always there for her. Like if you're going to the town and like going for shopping, do the stuff for her, being there, do the stuff what makes her happy, because she always wants me to be the good student. And I proved that. So like I knew that I miss her, you know, even that's like I caught myself once, like I going in the city and see women similar to her, why that woman didn't die. Until once it really hit me, I was like, that woman is somebody's grandma. That woman is somebody's mom. That woman is somebody's wife. Like this is evil, you know, like when you judge yourself. So that's when I stopped. That was the first time when I kind of like starts looking and processing that and let it go.
Your grandma was, you could consider one of your best friends, right?
Oh, yeah. She was my person to go to. And a lot of stuff when we're saying that, like doing the stuff. So she would protect me on many different levels. But then when I reaching a certain age, there was like that push. I remember that I was like about 10 years old when she sent me to the post office to fill out some form and pay something. It was some utility bill, whatever. Oh my God, I was so scared. I was going back and forth post office and her condo like 3 times. And she was like, are you done yet? I was like, no, she was like, no, don't come back until you finish. So then I would go pick up the form, then go to again home and said, this is the form. So she was like, don't come back until you pay. So I did it. And I know it was really nerve wracking. Like, I was like, my God.
And usually it's the fathers who push the kids to go out, take risks, get it done. And your grandmother did that too. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I would say that's maybe blessing and curse in the same time, because Serbia as a country in like geographically it's positioned that everyone wants to be there, because we kind of connecting Asia with Turkey. That was that, like, I believe Silk Way too. So a lot of wars happen. Like everyone liked that position. And the women like left at home with the children mostly when the men go to the war. And they're becoming like a strong, almost like a man. So
I get you.
And that's kind of like, it's good because that's give me like that strength to deal with the stuff in the life. But on the other side, it's too much masculine energy. So it's hard to shift when I'm in the relationship and now I'm at home. It's like I'm still running on that. It's so like, and I'm feeling like sometimes with the Andrew, like that's his maybe major complaint, that sometimes I'm too masculine. So in that relationship. So, and that's something what I said, it's kind of bless and curse in the same time. And I'm still learning how to shift, how from like when I'm going in the construction, of course I will not be feminine there,
Right.
no room. But then when I come home to just go into that nurturing and like nice feminine energy.
During this time you're growing up, we have a good overview of your family. I always like to bring up food because I'm Italian and we're all foodies. So did you have some dishes that your mom or your grandparents made that you really loved?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like beans. That was my favorite as a kid, with the smoked meat. It's a kind of bean soup. If you ask me as a kid what I want to eat, that was my thing. Like, I didn't need too much sweet, even we are very famous about sweets, same as Italian. And I think the good thing with the Serbian cuisine is it's mixed. You have Italian cuisine, you have a Greek, Turkish. We were actually under Turkey for 600 years, almost like a slave.
Oh, wow.
So it's a lot of like a mix. Then Germans coming on the top, like on the north, and from Hungarian too. So like when you look Sarma, it's like more German and North European, like a Polish. But we making a damn good sarmas. Like it's a sauerkraut with the stuffed with the ground meat and a little bit rice.
Do you like the smoked meats too?
Oh yeah, we are famous about smoke.
So I'll just share a funny Serbian story. My neighbors, Ted and Sandy, they live next door. And their parents had a home in Plainfield, and they were trying to get me to be the listing agent, which I became. So I go over to the house, and I'm all suited up, and I have the listing presentation, and I'm sitting next to Jonko, the father, like their father, and they're my age, Ted and Sandy. And so the whole family's there, and I'm doing my pitch and everything, and Jonko's hitting me in the arm like this. And he's pointing, he's got this whole wall full of cognac bottles, all different kinds of cognac. And he's like, and I'm like, no, I'm working, right? So he goes and gets the glasses for all of us and a bottle.
That's how Serbian works.
Yeah, so I'm looking at them, okay? And they're like, you have to do this, right? So they pour out some cognac, and then the ladies disappear, and they come back out, and they have these trays of smoked meats that they made themselves, right?
Yep.
So I'm empty stomach, and I'm drinking cognac and eating smoked meats, and I'm getting plastered. I mean, I'm like spinning because I don't drink cognac. And Dorothy, she texts me, "Where are you?" I go, "I'm drinking cognac with Jonko." She's like, "What is that?" That was the funnest listing presentation. I will never forget that.
So to understand the Serbians, you need to know that in the morning, old tradition is when you have a coffee, that's kind of Turkish coffee, you have a small glass of the šljivovica.
Oh,
so that's how you start the day. So like we have, it's funny, we don't drinking that much. Like even we don't have limitation on the drinks on the kids. But you don't have, I don't say we don't have alcoholics. Yes, you do, but it's not serious as here. I guess just because it's that tradition, okay, now we celebrate this, now we celebrate
Yeah.
that. And it's like,
Oh, that's very cool. And then as you're growing up, we kind of got to the age of 20 or 19 with your grandma. Did you have a lot of friends? Were you in sports? Were you a good student?
I was actually a really good student. Like I had straight A's during my elementary school, and I was in the ball dancing like waltz, and also the Latin American. That was really my love. But then my mom stopped that because she was so afraid that if when the competition starts, I will forget on the school. And
I
I
gotcha.
still, that's something what I regret. I should push and do it regardless what, because I was damn good on that. Regarding the sports, I was only running fast. That's about it. Never really play any sports. And that wasn't that much popular in Serbia. For boys, yes. For the girls, at least my family didn't do it. So that's how I grow, mostly school and proving myself through the school, like competitions, going up for the chemistry. I was really good in chemistry and math. That was my two loves. Whenever I was upset, I will go and open the math problems and play math for 3 hours.
Nice.
4
Did you
hours.
have a best friend or a group of friends?
I had like a few really good friends. Like it was like few girls. Somehow it was like when we're talking about these emotions, always like some kind of guilt or shame present. So I was always want to be sure that nothing is on my that I don't make anything stupid. So I was really like that boring teenager, really boring. I didn't do too many stuff. In that time, it was like my second marriage with my mom and my stepfather. So that I didn't, let's say I wasn't happy in that. So that's also kind of shut me down. And my only exit was I'm going to Belgrade University.
Any dating through this time or no?
I had one boyfriend that was really funny. We end up really quickly, a really short relationship, and I was stuck in that like for a really long time. And that guy is later on, his mom said they made mistake because they had told him in that time either he will marry me or he will not date me. And we were like junior year in high school. I was like, how you know? I mean, we even didn't finish our colleges. So anyway, didn't finish well. So my, again, dating was okay, like nothing too crazy. And I was also very in control. I never let my feelings really lead me to some certain like relationships.
We will definitely touch on controlling
Oh yeah.
feelings.
Oh yeah. I was queen of that.
That's interesting. Where do you think that came from so early on? That's like a survival mode, right? I mean,
Yeah. So when we're talking about, you can have certain stuff like generologically translate, and we can talk later on some of my breakthrough sessions what I did during my NLP trainings and coachings. And I realized that controlling is also that kind of shame running through our family on the feminine line. So through my mom, grandma, her mom, and everyone else. And my grandma was always telling me, I guess because of her own experience, don't always give the full heart. And that's how that controlling was, that's how maybe was seeded. But then with my stepfather, because he was really enjoying see me unhappy or sad, so I would put the joker face. So I would going through really bad time in my life and no one even be able, if I don't let you in as my inner circle friend, and tell you what's going on, you will never guess. So my grade's still going. That's when kind of keeping that facade and like outside so strong. So a lot of people, when they're talking now, when I'm opening up, especially as a coach, I'm sharing my experiences and how I really clear certain stuff in my life and like that neurological pathways. And when we're talking about the strategies we have and the pattern in the life and everything else, a lot of my school friends or people who knows me for a very long time is like, no, you're not like that. I was like, you actually saw me from outside, so you never knew what is. I was very confident, very outgoing, very ambitious, but then inside I was checking 55 million times. Did I say right what I did, how I did? It's really never satisfied.
What is the downside of keeping the cool, tough exterior, even though you have storms inside? What is the downside to doing that?
The downside is you're never happy. You're actually never secure and congruent. You're always looking some proof from the outside. So I never was good for myself. So I always was looking that other people give me approval.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other side, if I don't trust you and I know that you did that, like if I'm actually deeply inside, if I don't know about that's right, you can tell me whatever. And I was like, mm-hmm. So that's, I think the downside is really being constantly in the gap because you're constantly chasing approval from outside. And then for me, feeling not being worthy is like, and people pleaser. So to be honest, no one really like people pleasers. They're kind of convenient. They do stuff for you, but you really don't respect them.
I took negotiation classes through the real estate, and I did it with Wayne Paprocki, who's one of the greatest real estate mentors. Mm-hmm. Okay. And he basically says there's three types of negotiators. There's the competitor, and they want to win at all costs, and they will use profanity and bullying tactics. There's the compliant, and this is the person who wants to please everybody. They're terrible negotiators because they just want to be nice to everybody, to your point. And then there's the collaborator. The collaborator makes both sides feel like they got a square deal, right? And that is the mission. So you reminded me of that. So the reason why I asked you the question about keeping the stern facade, and I'll give you two examples. My dear friend Tony is Antoinette. She's a girl, and she was a cheerleader and always exterior, just positive, but she was going through hell. She was being abused in different ways. And so, like, I could say the downside there is you're not sharing anything with anybody. You don't have an outlet, right? So that's bad. But then, and this is life according to me as a husband, a lot of times I would share things with Dorothy about the pressures at work, and I had a high stress, high risk job, like where I could lose my house if I made a mistake. And when I would share things with her, she would have an emotional response, and it would make her more stressed. So in that scenario, I determined after a certain amount of times of doing that, I'm going to internalize it and I'm going to take care of it myself because it isn't helping us and it's not helping her. So what do you think about that?
So it's always good to have a friend. So in this particular situation, what you're talking about, like a spouses, for example, and especially if the spouse, like wife, or I mean now it can be husband, so it's like, but in that time it's mostly wife not working, then really that weight is on the man. And it's really a lot of stress because even if you're working in corporate America, like you have a great job and everything, so there is no security. Like you can one day just come and find a piece of paper, thank you for your service, and this is a box, and go. So I personally think it's always good to have a friend and have somebody who is really watching your back It's not about like, I'm actually very careful like with who you're surrounding. And if I can say, that's really, you have to have your tribe. You have to have a people who you know you can trust, the people who you know they will not lie to you, the people who know they will not pull you down. Because in my young age, I had a lot of people who are in that kind of fear, like you are on a certain level, so you cannot go. If you want to break that, you are either crazy or they will do everything in their power to just pull you down. So that's why I think like having a friend and talking to somebody, because if you're keeping inside you, eventually you're getting sick. Question is what and how. But on the other side, if you're talking to your spouse and there is no, it's that stress of, for example, losing a house. For the wife, that's not just the physical house, it's a home for the family, is hold that security. And that's like, especially in that time, if they're not working, then you are financially, you cannot support any house. So then it's like really going into the panic mode. So that's the need, a lot of like strength to kind of go through that. So I personally think it's good. Sometimes, when they say faking until you make it.
Yeah.
So sometimes works if you really have situation when it's not good to show what you really feel, because especially if you're in that like a surrounding with people who wants to pull you down, if they feel that there is some weakness, they will do it. So, but on the
That's
other
true.
side, if you are constantly keeping like your friend Tony, it's like, it's not healthy. And for me, it was like always being in that gap. So whatever I did in the life, I never see as a success. It's always a next, because I need to prove to somebody else. And I was living for outside approvals. And like fun fact is like, for example, organic chemistry, just example on my college, is like it was one of, that's kind of key. Like
It's a really hard class too.
I barely pass it. And when I talked to the, actually they failed me first time, professor failed me because when I asked like how that's the case, because it's correct. He was theoretically is, but you are a biochemical engineer, you're leading a factory. You will destroy factory financially if you apply these like reactions. So he didn't fail me because I didn't know. He failed me because it was financially irresponsible. And then again, I go and barely pass this time. So when I asked, I was like, this is really not fair. He was like, I'm expecting way more from you than from the others. And
Which is not fair, but understood.
Yeah, it's kind of compliment, but not really compliment in in that time. Let's say I was really upset. I was like, well, so somebody who don't expect that much, you gain good grade, and me who you expect, so I even don't know what to expect. Like, so it's kind of, and I have that in my life multiple times when the people putting me on the test, like kind of seeing in me the quality. So being in that inside world, insecure world, I never see that people see something bigger. I always see something is wrong with me, especially I'm not worthy. So what's missing now? What can I do? And again, like keeping like, oh, I don't care, whatever. So like that's kind of something what's, for me personally, it was gap. And gap never brings you joy.
We're going to take a little side street here. Side street is where we're moving through time, but we're going to go back and come back. So I'm continue to strive for enlightenment and wisdom. And you said emotional control. I call it internal mastery. It's the same thing. We feel our emotions, but we don't let our emotions, especially the bad ones, rule our actions, right? So we need the metacognition and all that. But I still find myself wanting approval. Like, he's a great guy, he's a good cook, and the logical part of my mind is saying, if I'm truly enlightened, then I shouldn't need that. I mean, what do you think about that?
That's 100%. If you're truly enlightened, you don't need. You're just who you are. When we're going for like a Huna trainings in Hawaii. So whole school is like not based on the teachings, but that's kind of, how they have energies. So Uncle George was one of the major teachers of our Kumu Mat. And this guy was legendary in Hawaii, like saved the Hawaiian culture, chanting, hula. He was master of the hula. And to be honest, like the way how he was showing up, unfortunately, I never have chance to meet him. He died like about 10 years, I believe. And he would that's what the people saying, like when he dressed up, like if it's a purple, he will have a purple hat, purple suit, purple shoes, purple, everything is purple, even pink or yellow. So whatever he choose. But he also never really cared about what the people will say about his look. And then one of the stories what Kumu Met shared, it was they're sitting in the restaurant and somebody came to him and said, "Oh, George Napolupe, like you are the musician." And Kumu Met was so upset. Like he's not just musician; he actually was musician and played really beautiful music. But then he never said that he's a musician. He was more entertainer. So, and Kumu Met was so upset. Like, but you are Kumu. You have all this wisdom. Like you are way bigger than. And then he was like, he corrected him, said, "No, I'm not musician, I'm entertainer." And then that was funny because Kumu Met always kind of have that face. I was like, look at him as like, what are you talking? And then he was like, for him, I am musician and entertainer. For you, I'm Kumu. He never had that inside him that really needs to prove that wisdom and everything what he has in his life. So I literally believe in that once when you don't need that affirmation and confirmation from somebody else, acknowledgments. I mean, acknowledgments are nice, but not something what you're looking for. So that's when I think it's really enlightenment, when you're really comfortable in your own skin. And that's a process.
We're under constant self-examination, right? That's part of living and learning.
Yep.
We're always testing ourselves, questioning ourselves. Maybe it isn't that I'm not comfortable in my own skin. I know what I am, but maybe when I get affirmation, it fuels me to continue on thusly, right? Like I'm a Christian and I live to please my God, and I will never know if that's happening or not because he doesn't communicate with me that I know of. But it's the wanting to please him and the wanting to shed light in the world, to bring people together, to be kind to people. When people acknowledge that you're doing that you are living up to your high code, maybe that's fuel to continue on too. So
no, definitely, like as you already searched about, so we have a persona, ego, and shadows. Ego is something what's really protecting us. And when we said feeding ego, so that's nothing wrong with that.
Define ego for me, because I've had a lot of discussion about this. What is ego?
Ego is part of yourself. First, that's the biggest mistake what people trying to control or trying to destroy ego. That will be the same if you take arms and legs and wanted to walk. So the ego is formed somewhere I believe teenagers age or some, it's kind of forming more and more, is part of you what's living from the past. And the major function of the ego and why it exists is to protect you. So when we said I got the gut feeling, but then that other voice, so keeping you more safe. So very often we doing the stuff from ego starts point. Every time when you feel fear to do something, that's an ego in you. And ego is nothing else than 3 years old, trying to protect you in everything what they can. And it's good to have a good ego. It's good to, for example, acknowledge, I like to be acknowledged by the people around me or to give me like compliments on the cooking. So, and I feel good. So this is part of who we are. So, and I kind of starts to be very okay with that. In my part of journey of to enlightenment or something is, for example, I drove Porsche. I never said I drove that. I will always calling SUV. And I have once when the people told me that there is no Porsche there is no SUV on the parking. I was like, what do you mean there? I thought my car is gone. And they was like, oh no, but that's a Porsche. I was like, no, that's a SUV. Why I'm saying that is like, now I enjoyed in that. Very long time I was beating up myself as a luxury. When we're talking about these negative emotions, I didn't deserve it. And I on the other side, I want it. Obviously, I believe in that car, on the braking system. My son was small and I was driving and feeling really good, like a superhero on the highway, on the rain or on the snow. But then in the one point, I was like, I checked my ego. I love that. Nothing wrong with that. I love luxury stuff. I like to go in the hotel and with the 5 stars and enjoy on that's like a great service. But that's something would take me a while to accept. I was ashamed of. I was feeling guilty. Maybe the way how I was growing up, because money is evil. People with money, they're usually not good. And plus, I'm not worthy. So how somebody can do, how you can have a nice stuff when you're not worthy. So that is something what is like being okay that certain stuff, like when you said my ego is checked. Of course, like if you're narcissistic, that's we're talking about bad ego. So that's
So that is a part of ego too, right? Narcissism is a category of ego, correct?
Yes. So that's literally example of the bad ego. So unfortunately, they don't have emotions. There is no empathy there. So if the people dealing with them, my advice is like, just simply go, because there is nothing you can do for these people, because they cannot process that. Like you said, perception, like if something happened to me, how I caused that. For them is always somebody else, and it's never them. And they will fight that to the rest of their life.
I have a saying, it goes like this: when your ego matches your ability, you're good. When your ability exceeds your ego, you're golden. But when your ego exceeds your ability, you're in trouble, right?
Yes. I actually also love, not sure, did you read the 5 levels of leadership or 5 levels of, now I'm blinking on the John Maxwell. So anyway, it's 5 levels of leadership. So, and he's talking like all different 5 levels. So the 5th level, of course, is that like a level when you have a legacy, when you actually training the other like a leader, so they becoming leaders. And he was talking exactly what you mentioned before, that when you get to the certain level, when you kind of thinking you're God or you came to the some point, people forgetting that you existing there just because of the other people. But then that's when the ego taking over and they think they're the best. And that's what ruining a lot of people who are on that 5th level, when people look at them as a legacy when they really living. Like, for example, John Maxwell is one of that 5th level leaders, because he's constantly developing new leaders and he's enjoying making people successful. And successful doesn't mean just in job. You have all these 5 different levels of wealth too.
So I have a chapter in my book called Leadership. And so my opinion with the highest form of leader is one that he will get or she will get in the trenches with their people, right? So, and I've done this my whole life and all my leadership positions. I became part restaurant owner, and I was actually a shareholder, and then my career changed, and I said, do you want a managing partner? I know a lot about food and wine. Well, they put me in charge of the bar. Right. I never go to bars. I don't know how to make drinks. So I went to bartending school, and then we'd have these 2, 3, 4 hour waits in the restaurant. And I would, in my suit, I would get behind the bar and I'd become a bartender. And the management would yell at me. I put more bartenders behind the bar. I'm like, there's no more room. So I would become a bartender. They would go into their tip pool, and then they grew to respect me because they're like, this guy's getting in the trenches with us. So that to me is a component of top level leadership. And also it's what you just said. And that is a true leader wants to create great leaders, even ones who surpass them.
Yep.
Right. And there's a book called The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. Did you ever read it? Well, one of his top things is never outshine the master. Yeah. But that would be, to me, as a weak master, because the master should want you to, and just like a parent, right? Yeah. A good parent will want the child to surpass them in everything, right?
Yeah, when they said a good teacher is when the students surpass them.
Yeah.
So that's actually a really good teacher.
And so I've in my path to enlightenment, which is always ongoing, I'm competitive in sports and stuff, and it's not about winning anymore. My mission when I play sports is to continually improve myself, but to help others improve. If I'm pushing you to improve, that's the ultimate victory for me.
Yeah.
Whether I win or not, it's making you better, right? So that's leadership.
Yes, and like once I have removed my negative emotions, what majorly kept me in my loop, and that's I'm not worthy and like I'm unlovable. There was a lot of different kind. So I went and I'm so clear on that. I'm always for win-win. I will not play. If I see that there is no win-win situation, I will not play. So before that, like as you said, like from working on university, becoming a real estate agent, I would fight. Actually, I was damn good negotiator, but not for myself, because I was negotiating for somebody else. So my feelings and what I think about myself wasn't in the game.
Interesting.
So, but then again, like if I'm involved, I'm giving up pretty much on the beginning. You win, I'm okay. And that wasn't who I am. Mm-hmm. And I was very upset coming home, or, like when you have these thoughts in your head, I was like, why am I doing that? Like, why I giving opportunity what's once in the lifetime to somebody else instead of me jumping on it? But that was stronger than me. Because of that, I'm not worthy. So like how I can take somebody's. So I rather you win. And then I was like, okay, I will wait. Until that's now I'm so clear. So I'm again, there is a situation in the life. And if I'm seeing like, especially real estate, if I'm seeing that other agent is like me, my client, I usually walking away. I telling, of course, my client, and I was like, this is very aggressive party. So these are what we will challenge if he wants to go in, because on the end, it is their choice. But then my first conversation with the agent is like, look, let's make that clear. Win-win or no deal. I understand your obligations and that you want to be the best agent for your client, but the same is it's coming from this side too. So like we can bring this only if we work hard and work all these people, as an agent, how it's interesting. We are more in psychology than anything else.
True. Even with our own clients, especially, right?
Yes, because it's a lot of emotions. So that's what I kind of learned when you are not emotionally involved. When you take yourself out of the equation, you can actually make really good decisions.
Mm-hmm. Another shout out to one of our sponsors, Nevis Nutrition, which is a vitamin and supplement shop in Lamont. Owner Joe Bosco, dear friend of mine. Joe is super knowledgeable in nutrition, extremely knowledgeable in fitness. All the top athletes, weightlifters, bodybuilders, they go over there. He's really instrumental in help coaching our young athletes too. He's located in Lamont. I'll put the address in the description as well. You probably were around. Yvette and I did a real estate presentation called Building a Warrior Realtor.
Yes, I was on that one. It was really good.
Yeah, thank you. So I learned this through my real estate mentor, Wayne. Like I told you in the negotiation class, the number one weapon in a negotiation is the walkaway power.
Yep.
If you have the ability to walk away and you let them know you have the walkaway power, you control the negotiations then, right? So, and then with the competitive negotiator who wants to win at all costs, sometimes you just have to shut them down. They'll swear at you. And, I submitted an offer to a $40 million producer in downtown. And, she called me up. She goes, "Thanks for the shit offer." That's her first words out of her mouth. "Thanks for the shit offer." And she got a little bit belligerent. And I said, "Amanda, I'm not going to speak with you if you're going to talk to me that way. So I'm going to hang up the phone right now. And when you're ready to have a civil conversation, we'll have a civil conversation." And as I was hanging up the phone, she's like, wait a minute. And I hung up the phone on her. So you have to chill them down.
No, that's 100%, because I would say that some people learn that dealing with stress is just to take it out on the first person who is coming. And sometimes you're taking that, sometimes you don't. But I 100% agree that if you are not putting your foot down and really explaining without you exploding, so that's another thing when the emotions are in check. So you know who you are, you know that you're a great agent, so you don't allow anyone to talk to you like that. On the other side, if you have insecure agent who is changing every single deal, it will be, but this is like trying to explain, but my client, but maybe that's their approval, but that's this. And it's so many, like, instead of really do what you can do in this situation, because then this agent will listen to you. I don't say that maybe you didn't increase the offer if it's too low, but that's where it's part of negotiation.
The next book I read, I told you I'm on book number 2, but book number 3, I was going to collaborate with other realtors about the crazy life of real estate agents.
Oh yeah, we have them a lot.
So emotionally charged. You're dealing with the biggest transaction of somebody's life, and it brings out the crazy in people, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, we have like a few. And I mean, I don't want to name them just because it's kind of too crazy. But it was very close to us, and it was more close maybe for the Andrew side. And he was now emotionally involved. And that's why we're always joking when we're going as interviewing the clients. I was like, you have 2. So like one is always like a cold-headed. So it's like always good. And this was so crazy that the buyer wants to walk away literally on the day of the closing, because some windows are not changed what wasn't planned at all. Mm-hmm. So I just called her. I was like, okay, let's go and let's check. And she come down, the seller come down, and we just shake the hands on the closing and we closed. So we have situations when our buyer side, giving me tantrum after all the closings, all the closing costs. They're coming with $3,000 to close house on $300,000. I was like, this for me, it's a blessing. When you're closing, like everyone gave you credits for this and that, including lender. And they was like, no, this is too much and I don't want it. And I remember I was like, when you have to be cold and just shoot that arrow into the pain spot, I was like, no, that's fine. This like what you're bringing now and like whatever is, it's pretty much like your Starbucks coffee. So if the Starbucks, it's more worth it for you to afford than go to the home and say that your kids will not have your favorite house. Just go.
We did this a couple times. We have competitors that do way more business than us. And they'll be like, well, they sell a lot more homes than you. And I would go, look, if you want to go to McDonald's, Billions Serve, go to them. If you want a Portillo's burger, you come to us. Okay, so you get what you pay for. We'll just do one more thing on the real estate, and then we'll get back to our path. When you talk about taking the emotion out of a deal when you're negotiating, I believe also a component of that is the agent wanting that paycheck. If they're real commission oriented, then they're not acting on the best behalf of the client, right?
I mean, I have situations, especially now when, that was before like that seller doesn't have to pay the buyer
Right.
agent's commission. So that was all the time like that. But it was kind of custom that seller pays the commissions. But now it's almost like illegal that you even presenting like that. So everyone needs to negotiate. I had the situations and my client wants to pay 2%, what is not bad. Like if you really want 3%, then go and ask your client 1%. They were like, nope, and they hang up. So they even don't want to show the house. So that's not for them. Like I was like, okay, so that's first is illegal because you need to present your client even with a $1 check, commission check. And then I had agents who wants to teach me how to negotiate with my client to increase their commission.
Right.
I was like, how about I coach you that you go to your client and maybe ask for this 0.5%. And they was like, no, I will never ask my client. I was like, okay, then this is what we offer. Go back to the call paper and let's start from there. And it's a lot of unethical commission change. Like, you know, in that time, let's put like that, when was crazy stuff happening in 2021, 22, when was really like a lot of people has actually record sales. Andrew and I walk away from the buyers. We didn't want to present the buyers because for me it was unethical to tell buyer to go 50, 60, depends now what they're buying, over asking price, to waive the appraisal, to waive the inspection, to waive pretty much everything and anything. And for me it was like, no, if I couldn't find deep inside me, right, because I knew it, what is the way to win. I wasn't like, I don't know how, yes, I win. Even in that crazy time, we did have a buyers when I would win with just 3,000 over asking price. But then when one point was really super crazy, I was like, this is against who I am. And I cannot look that person in the eye when they're putting the last penny, for example, or majority of their saving for something. And then you know that nothing is checked in the house. And what if the furnace break on the first year? What if the roof is leaking on the first year? These are like big items. So it's not something like, oh, it's a $200, let's pay it. So I personally, when I feel commission-based agents, I honestly don't like to work with them. If it's a multi-offer situation, I don't choosing their, like, it's not me to choose, but like I would be happy if the if the seller choose somebody else, let's put like that. And I met most of them who just really looking to close and having these nice la sales techniques, almost like a car salesman's. And they're just moving to the next and the next. And they have a really great careers. Like they're very successful. Some of them are really like successful agents, but they don't care about people.
Right. And we have plenty of those.
Yeah.
All right. So we did a little side trip on the real estate. So now let's get to the point of the story. You've finished university, what happens, the events that get you here?
It was actually very interesting for me finishing my university, because then something happened what I thought I will never, ever experience in my life. It was a NATO bombarding and war over the Kosovo and all that. So I remember like I was preparing my thesis, because we in Serbia, we have to as engineers having a thesis and defense that. What is equal to the master in US.
What is it? Engineering, chemical engineering, where you going?
Biochemical engineering and biotechnology. Like I'm preparing my thesis, what was encapsulation of certain drugs and everything, kind of like everything going well. And there was one thesis defense, and I remembering saying, there is nothing on this world will stop me to graduate after May. I was actually planning to finish in April. Bombarding happened March 27th.
Wow.
So it's like everything shut down, of course.
So tell me what the bombing, give me a little historical background on that.
So if you remember when Serbs fight over the Kosovo, well, to be honest, I don't want to be political, but when they now everyone feel for Ukraine, I was like, okay, so when we have a Kosovo, we have to give up on the Kosovo. But now for Ukrainian, everyone say that should be part of Ukrainian. So I think that's really the big forces and political like top like in like a strong countries, they just simply there is no rule, depends where their interest is. So in that time, unfortunately, everyone wants Serbia to lose the Kosovo, and because we fight for it, then NATO bombard us.
So bombing was happening is the point.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that put a damper on your graduation time, or
Yes, so I kind of delay. So I actually graduate still under the bombarding, and in July. And I mean, it was sad, like when you're passing by and see destroyed buildings, it's kind of like movie, but in the real time. And the sirens and being exposed to that, like a life-threatening situation. So they are coming. So they said bombarders are coming. And they're saying, for example, my hometown. So they have a target, so but you don't know what and when. So I witnessed a few explosions, not of course close by, but like I witnessed when the planes was exploding in the air, like all that, like what is called like when they're defending from I think it's a POV on Serbian, but I'm not sure on the English word. When you have like based on the ground and they're shooting to the airplanes.
it's called anti-aircraft.
Yes, yeah. So I missed that on the English part. So I was experienced that, and it's kind of like a fireworks, just not fun. And it's like going in the stores, waiting in the lines. The sirens are on, so they will bombard you. But then the flour and the milk coming in next 15 minutes, and you don't know when the next time comes, so you stay in the line even if you should not be in the line. So it's kind of really like war is very specific, crazy psychology chain of events, and the people really react really like from complete panic to superheroes, and like you really don't know how you will react until you're in that situation. It's really that fight or flight. So that's and so I graduate, and then I felt very empty because when I graduated, so my country was completely destroyed, pretty much financially, economically, physically. So major stuff was factories was completely bombarded and like destroyed. So especially my hometown, what has a military factory in the middle of the town. So we were kind of target very often. Majority of the infrastructure was gone too. So I felt like nobody. Because for me, before I graduated, I was a student. And now I'm nobody. I'm unemployed. And then looking in chances to find some job was almost impossible. But then I guess when you don't have any other exit, when you really reach that bottom in the life point, I start literally going from one institution to another institution, knocking on the door and insisting to talk to the CEO or whoever was hiring. Ending up with the water department, like water supply, and they did have some job offering, but then they accept somebody else. You know how that's my kid working there, so you find a way. And in that time, like they're like a legal service, they said I have right to fight who they employed because they asked for my degree, not for somebody. That person was just a chemist. Anyway, so to make short, I give up on that. I was like, you know what, this kid also need a job. That's, let them. I'm not selfish, let's put it like that. And plus it was like they win, it's okay. So what is maybe good, because then I find the Public Institute of Health, and I went to talk to their at that time CEO, and they said, here is a phone number, you need to make appointment. I call 15 times in the next 5 hours to make appointments. So he picked up the phone because he was annoyed too, and he was like, okay, come to an interview next day. So I came, and I just said, like, I know that if I going as internship, it will not cost you anything. Government will pay for me. Right now, it's my mom and my sister and brother who are just in high school in that time. And I was like, we really feel when the barrel starts leaking, but you don't know which hole to cover first. So I was like, for me, that will be something at least to feel good. So he gave me a chance. So I actually started working in the Public Health Institute, what was really privilege for my hometown. Even now, it's very highly graded, in status is like really, really good. And then I start simply working, put my whole effort, young, ambitious, find some new experiments. I had a really great team working there, and I will feel that was part of me going, ladders going up. And I've got the full-time employment after that 1 year, what was really kind of showing me that I was really on the right path. My friend called me from nowhere. It was August, and she was already in US. And when I hear her, I was like, oh my God, it's so great. When you're coming, are you here? She was like, no, I'm in US. I was like, oh, okay. She was like, do you want to be my godmother? So it's kind of like, for Serbians, it's for the weddings. It's really like a godmother or godfather. And that's, for us, it's like such an honorable role. You never say no for that. And I was like, sure, like, when you're coming, like, I already planning in Serbia. She was like, oh no, it's in US. I was like, okay, so I need visa. So we arrange everything. She was crazy enough too, so that the congressman in Indiana was somehow Serbian connection. So they also gave me a letter as a support. So it was all kind of story behind that. And then September 11, I came from work and she's calling me. I was like, I'm already ready. You're kind of in your own conversation. She was like, did you watch the news? I was like, no, I just came from work. When I turned on the TV, I still have the goosebumps on that. That was a moment when the second plane hit the building. And for me, it was really hard to process that I watch really real time people losing their life. But then that's how that all mess starts. So for me, getting a visa very next day and going in, life really can change in seconds. Mm-hmm. And that's something what we are not appreciate at all. And we're not aware of that. We think life will be the same forever. So then doing my best. I wanted to know that I did my best. Even everyone was saying, you know what, that you're just losing your time, you're losing your money. There is no way that anyone will give you visa now. I find my way to go to Hungary in Budapest. And that was another crazy experience. What is, embassies was whole, the barbed wires, the really Marines, so everyone was really highly protected. And they're calling our names, and then suddenly you're turning around and you see the guns put on you. I was like, there is one more person there. So we then figured out that somebody just kind of joined our group to go in the embassy. So I got my visa, what was kind of I was so happy, but then it was airports are not open, you have to go back. So I drive back 10 hours to Belgrade. I put my bags, phone rings. It was tomorrow morning, their first flight, so they will come to pick you up. After 10 hours, I just kind of take my luggage, turn back, and the van came again and picked me up. And that's how I finished in US with all that mess and the airport and panic. And I really feel for the people, like the Muslims people in that time, because these poor people has to travel and they didn't have any peace because they would follow anywhere. So anyway, then I came here, and after like so many years of dark, because I even didn't know how much we lived in dark until I came here and it was night. So we driving from O'Hare, I believe, through the downtown Chicago, and I was like, wow. I mean, not down, but we passing downtown, and it's like, I was like, wow. Then we in Indiana, because they live in that time in Indiana, so all that Gary area with factories and everything for me was like, factory has a light. Like that's what I realized, how much we were suppressed as a people. And you don't know that because become your reality, become normal, become new standard. That's how you live. And then I find my job on university because I told my friend I can stay. She was begging me. She was like, I'm so lonely here. I really want to have you, my best friend from the young childhood. And I was like, yeah, I would like to stay, but then only if I have job what I finish a college. I was like, don't forget, I go through all these embargoes in Milosevic, like bad politics, and really suffering during my college time. I was like, I don't want to stay here and just like do nothing or do some basic stuff. So then I've got visa to start working on University of Illinois in Chicago, and I went back to kind of change the status and then just simply come, and that's how I start working on the medical research. And that was crazy when you don't allow yourself to say you don't know something. I was working some crazy hours. In average, I would work 12 hours. So that's kind of like minimum. But there was a days when I working 17 to 20 hours.
Wow.
Because I was trained by one very good PhD from China. And he would come, for example, 7 a.m. because that was his schedule. But then I will continue with now my friend Jasna, who was PhD student, and she would come later. So she would work until 10 or 11. So very often I will come before 7 and then leaving 11 or midnight. So, but that gave me that like good heads up, because a lot of people didn't take their time. So I learned a lot of stuff in a very quick time, and then start publishing papers, being actively in research. Originally, I wanted to go for PhD, but then I realized that at least how was presented in that time, that PhD working in academia, like maybe some pharmaceutical jobs, but then I kind of didn't feel myself there anymore. So I chose to stay as a lab manager and just doing my side project. So I did actively do research and publish papers even as a first author, helping tons of the students in postdocs. And that's how I learned to handle the people, because sometimes, especially in academia and like medical field, like people are very competitive and they can really run over other people just to kind of prove and go, and they don't care. So it's kind of like emotional part is taken away.
Were you making some decent money then?
No.
Okay.
So that was like another thing, you're coming to, and as an immigrant, we actually work for very little. So there was these moments where I'm doing that. And then what I liked, like in the meanwhile, I got married. So that got, of course, better pay and everything, but far away from great pay. Academia, it's never great pay. postdocs, even now, I believe, working for 40 to 50K. So what is really...
Right.
But anyway, that's a life.
When did you learn English then?
I learned in school, but I thought I don't know my English at all until I flew that famous September 16th and I start speaking English. I was like, from where is this coming up? Like, I really I knew it. Probably even now it's not correct. I'm making so many errors in English and I'm aware of that. But then in that time, I'm pretty sure it was really bad. But these people understood me. I was like, and then I knew the words, what I thought I don't know them. I knew communication and I carry communication even I thought it's impossible. Then when I start reading the papers, oh my God, I was coming home and my brain was huge, almost like you have that. So it was kind of crazy. And I just simply could not afford myself to say I don't know. So that was good. Fake it until you make
Right.
it. I will always kind of, I know that. And then go and study and searching, then translate the words. Oh my God, one page of paper take me usually 5 hours to translate because that was medical field. So it wasn't really my field. I was more engineer. So it was hard to pick up. And then I realized that a lot of stuff what was afraid and how I don't know that when everyone knows. For example, GP1B receptor. Then 6 months later, I realized that GP1B receptor is only one receptor existing on the platelets and no one else. And if you don't do platelets and blood research, you even don't know about GP. So, but for me, it was how I don't know, how I didn't learn. And that was kind of it's fun fact. Now I can laugh about it, but at that time it wasn't funny at all.
So where does the meeting someone and getting married come into this picture and the timeline?
Pretty much maybe a year after I started working. And it was good on the beginning until it wasn't. So when we're talking about different cultures and finding myself again like amoeba, I wanted to be part of that family so badly, to prove something. Let me say, saying that acknowledgement from the other people, and that's never come. I even was hiding my higher education because I didn't want them to feel bad or under. So took a very long time when I forgot, I think it was his sister when she said, wait, what, you are an engineer? I was like, yeah. Something yeah. And it was a good learning lesson for me. I personally think that marriage was for me to face stuff what I was avoiding all my life. I was avoiding that type of people. And don't take me wrong, they're very hard-working people, but the way of how they live the life, the way of how they process the life, it was completely opposite from me. And on the end, that polarity never could work. Mm-hmm. So I was lying myself a very long time that when we buy the house, when we have our own house, everything will be better. But then that didn't happen. Then we got our son, and then because I grew up without father, so I so badly wanted my son to have a father. So I just simply go through stuff what probably I should not. And I was happy if they pass and he didn't scream on me. So that's how, for me, I really degraded myself a lot in the one point. Degradation was to that level that in the one point I did experiment because I was already in the research. So I did experiment if I do exactly what he wants and how he wants, is that will change something. And it's good that I did that because I realized that I wasn't the woman who can make him happy. So that doesn't make me bad or he's making bad. We just simply not comparable, and we could not. Actually, it was starts hurting Tristan. That's where I decide it's better being separate and divorce and do the comparating than expose Tristan to something what's not.
Tristan is your son. He's 16, yes?
Yes.
So I want to pause you on this point here because you do a lot of work, brain work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Happiness does not reside in anyone else's hands except our own, doesn't it?
Yes. And I even search a little bit deeper. So when we're talking about happiness and joy, so the joy is that basic emotion behind. Happiness is mostly outside. And happiness mostly can be reached with outside things. Acknowledgement from the other people, buying certain stuff. But that joy, what you can feel inside you, what is really almost divine feeling coming from you. And yes, you're in charge of your own happiness. Because some people think that if they buy bigger house, they will be happier. If they buy a new car, they will be happier, or Rolex watch, or go with the friends, I don't know, express them with whatever. But then it's always new. It's always like that short, like a spike. But then it's not that quality of the life. You can have really crazy experience just going fishing on the local river, like without being fancy and going some fancy like Costa Rica or whatever people do, and really have a great time with your friends. So it's about that connection, and it's about how you perceiving your life. Because what's also, I worked on it a lot, and especially Andrew and I work on it, is like gap versus gain. Even that's a book about. And it's really like we are almost conditioned to always look into the gap when I have and always looking what we don't have, that we actually forgetting to look on the gain, and really pause. That's what I really loved about John Maxwell, when he is posing for reflections and see your life and see your progress. Because if you see a reflection on your life, you're present in how and what's that's happening. What's also you are happier and more joyful, and your life doesn't flying. Every person who said that year passed by, they even don't remember, you are not present. So you are always either in the future or you're in the past. But what's happening now, what is actually the name of our company, you don't know, is because I'm really standing that if you're not present in now, where opportunities are, where the people are, you're actually missing everything. You're missing life.
A lot of philosophies touch on that, right?
Yeah.
Living in the present moment. And so it can be hard to understand. And I'll share a funny kind of story with you. I had a friend of mine. She told her story about battling cocaine and alcoholism. She should have been on the Olympic team for swimming. And she told her whole story of bouncing off the bottom. And now she's a life coach, and she's one of these real strong women. And so, she goes on stage and she does the whole thing. So she's talking about living in the present moment. Okay. And I asked her this question, which I'm going to ask you near the end. I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, how happy and fulfilled are you in your life? And she goes, about an 8. I go, well, what would make it a 10? She goes, I'm not where I want to be in business, and I'm not where I want to be financially. And she said 3 or 4 things, and I didn't say a word. And I looked at her, and her eyes started to do this, like she was thinking. And as soon as I saw that, I laughed out loud. She goes, why are you laughing? I go, you just got done talking about mastering living in the present, but your present's only an 8 because of something that hasn't happened in the future.
Yeah.
So I said to her, do you know what redlining is? And she's like, no. I go, in a car, you have a tachometer. Mm-hmm. And when you hit the gas all the way, that tachometer, that needle goes into the red line. That is where your motor is pushing the hardest it can go, right? And I said, in life, redlining for you would be you're in a swim meet and you got about 10 feet to touch the wall, and you could see on your stroke that your competitor is one hand ahead of you, and you have to dig for every molecule of what you are to get. And I go, it's like, running a race, pushing through a max. I go, when we're redlining as people, that's where life is lived to the fullest. Our whole being is in that present moment. And I said, most people have never redlined, not even one time in their life. And she goes, I'm redlining all the time. I go, so your life is she goes, a 10. Is this right? Yeah. So I like to say we only have two knowns in our life. We have our past, and we have this present moment. We do not know what's forward. We hope we know. So we can take our past, and this is where I disagree with a lot of success manuals. They're like, put your past behind you. And I'm like, no. You take your past and you create a solid foundation. You take your data set and say, like, my mom, she was an alcoholic and drug addict and I never had a father. No, I take the same data set and say, my mother had a big family. 7 uncles helped take care of me and a grandfather. I was not wanting for a father. I grew up like a prince, right? You frame it all out like that, and your past then becomes your foundation, right?
When the people living in the past, or they translate the past into the future through anxiety. So that's why I'm saying, a lot of people, if you're depressed, you're living in past pretty much. And if you have anxiety, you're living in future. And that's when the people taking a bad content from the past, like you said, if I going on this street, something bad happened, and then if it's still the street looks similar, so I will not go there. And maybe your next opportunity is in that street, but because you are marking with something bad happened in the past, you just simply don't think and you stop. And that's life starts looking same or same. And also stuff when something bad happened in the past, bad. I mean, that's judgment. So nothing is bad or good. It's just experience. But people taking that and then it's oh my God, it's only me. Oh, I'm so sad or I'm so upset. And then they're kind of holding for that so strong that becoming their new reality. That's becoming their new identity. I'm not by any mean, and I mean any mean, approving or saying it's okay. For example, rape victims. But we know the people who are raped and move on with their life. So what's happened, I mean, it's really, there is no explanation for that. But on the other side, there is a people who just get stuck on it and they cannot move on. Or maybe they become successful business people, but then they not allow no one else to be in their personal life. They cannot allow anyone, for example, if it's a woman, so they always see the man on the certain way or certain stuff. So, or they destroying relationship, they're destroying marriages because of that, something what they're holding from the past. That's why I'm so standing that releasing negative emotions, what they kind of, instead of lessons, because everything what's happening in our life is happening because we asked for the lesson. But we forgot that we lost on the lesson on that soul level. And then we was oh my God, why me? And then that's how we start kind of packing that and carrying with us. And then it's almost like a glasses. You have one black glasses, another one. And then you have so many filters that on the end, nothing to see. You're living from that blueprint from the past. And then maybe the best opportunity in your life is there, but you don't see.
So tell me, in the early part of your story, you were bound up, right?
Yep.
You didn't let your life force flow. Did you ever figure out what that came from? Did you have some kind of trauma, because your mother was telling you, go get him, right? And your grandparents were very good examples. Well, did you ever figure out what was keeping you constricted?
I know the answer now, because there was that constant shame. I would always feel shame. So like if I, like a lot of girls in my time, they will have like short skirt or, like some maybe more open decollete or, like a little bit more, let's say, sexier look. So I would love that kind of look. Don't take me wrong. And I would maybe wear it. But as soon as the man says something, I immediately then, if it's a short skirt, then will be longer one, or I will do the turtleneck or like something like that. So anyway, I never was feel free. So one of the possibilities is that I never really experienced that like a physical touch or like really approach from the man when I was a kid, because my uncles were like very strange people, let's put like that, like more that negative aspect of my growing up. And my grandfather, he never was touchy, like, so he was always that very strong. I knew that he loves me, but then there is no that like a real, like some fathers are really affection and like with the girls and playing, and that didn't happen with my grandfather. We had other like a crazy adventures.
Did you get that physical affection from the females in your life?
Yes, from my grandma. So that was for me okay. But then when, you start growing up, so then it's not just the men's as a father figures or, elderies, let's say like that. So it starts like you start feeling for some boys or something. Then I got confused because I couldn't differentiate between the guy who really likes me and touch me or the guy who just touched me as a friend, because that was for me didn't exist. So I didn't. So I learned that. So, and I start accepting that the man can touch me. And I mean just an innocent hug, like, so that's, I was so confused as a kid. And that's like when we're talking about that, like a shame on the end. So to go back on that, I had like in NLP coaching, we have a breakthrough session and like travel on the timeline when you kind of can see the very first event when the certain emotions or the limiting beliefs was formed. So in this particular case, it was a shame as a negative emotion. So I went neurologically 5 generations back, because it's kind of meditation, guided meditation. So you go there. And vividly, I saw my, great grandma who was raped by the soldiers. So it was very vivid experience, almost like somebody raping me, like it was so real.
So do you think that there is generational trauma that comes through the bloodline?
Yes. So like my another conspiracy theory is like for like a good 3 or 4 or maybe 5 generations. So from that woman pretty much. So the next girl, the girl always has one girl and boys or boy. Boys can have a girl's boys. So like that's like my great grandma has a boy and girl. My grandma has a boy and girl. My mom was, I believe, one, because of that free spirit, the one who should break that. But then she starts doing, but then on the end life happens and she didn't. So she had like 2 girls and a boy. But the fun fact is my sister and I, she has a girl and I have a boy. So we are actually acting as a one girl. So what's happened is during that meditation, I realized that it's not my fault and nothing to be ashamed of. It's happened, as in the war, a lot of ugly, stupid things happens. And I was finally okay. And I cannot express that relief, because first time after, like, it was maybe I was close to 50 in that time. So like 50 years you're living life with a shame, constant shame. And like you even don't know why. So that's like a first sign that you have stuck emotion. If you have constant anger and you don't know why you're angry, or you are sad and you don't know why you're really sad, or in this case, shame, and I don't know. I mean, I know I didn't do anything, but I'm so afraid of that shame, and it's always kind of follow me as a little shadow. So I finally got such a relief. The great thing is when you're releasing this is that 5 generations behind you and 5 generations in front of you will be clear and benefit. One of the crazy stuff is my niece, who in that time was struggling in school and like not really be like, she was good kid, but like completely kind of like no ambitious about anything. Overnight, she becomes straight A student, the president of student council, like completely knew what she wants in the life.
Right near the moment where you figured it out.
Maybe week or two. That was like when that change, of course, needed to pass like a few months, but she literally from shy, unspoken, like leave me alone kid, all full outgoing. Like my sister even thought that it's impossible for her to go on to college. She's in college. And first things what she did, what she needs to do, that she again be in the student council and be in that little circles.
So is it like, and I haven't studied this yet because I've heard generational trauma and stuff, and I'm skeptical about that, but your lineage is like a chain.
Yeah.
You go back to generations, and something happens in certain time frames where one of those links in the chain, it gets kinked or it gets very weak, and then moving forward, it makes everything could be shaky because of that one link, right?
Yeah, because like, I don't know, did you hear about experiments about the monkeys and the bananas on the top of the pole? So you know very well that they will electroshock the monkeys, then they learn that it's not good to go. So then you have a new batch of the monkeys, so the other monkeys was pulling. But then when they had the babies who never actually ever lived, but they are their babies, they even didn't try to go. So there is something in our genes, what is that stuck traumas carrying on. I personally don't believe in karma of the past life, and I will explain why. The karma is nothing else than the action. So what you're doing. So I believe that you paying for some of your actions through karma, so it can be positive, negative, even sometimes because time is, everything is one moment, past, now, and future. They're all happening now. You can maybe pay now for something what you will do in future. That's also like all theories about the karma. But for me, it's really like when the people saying, oh, this is my karma from the past life. It's so unfair. How you will pay something and having karma from the past life and you even don't remember. But what is happening is on the soul level, once when we are souls and everything is nice, we want to learn something. Unfortunately, as a human preconditioning, we're learning only through tough time. I personally didn't hear and met ever a person who learned something from good time. We have good time, we are happy, but that's about it. You're usually learning lessons and transformations happens when something tough. Can be tragic, can be like anger, like whatever. Definitely not pleasant. And we asking for certain experiences on the soul level so that we can evaluate on the next one, so that we can go higher. So then another souls, what they wants us to, everyone loves each other, so they want to help you. So they kind of volunteer to come with you in the life and experience something. So as much as is crazy, as much as is ugly to say, but for example, somebody maybe wants to experience to be murdered, and then there is a soul said, okay, I will come and I will kill you so you can learn something. Or maybe somebody said, I want to lose the parent, somebody to kill. Like I just giving some stupid, very ugly examples because people usually not going there. And we forgetting, you get born and then you forget what was your mission, why you came. So instead of learning the lesson on the tough time, we kind of shut down, not everyone, but some people very often. And then you're carrying, like if it's anger, you're carrying that anger through your past lives. One of the things what I had is a guilt. And it seems that happened long time ago. It's again through the timeline. It was like a long time, North Europe, like a village. They still have the fur clothes and everything. 4 of us walking in, and whole village was killed. And then I holding my kid, what was kind of teenager, and asking a God why. So that was that guilt that I wasn't in the village to die with them. So why me? Why I survive? And that again, that was one of really leading. This is one of the first emotions I released, because I would felt like such a strong guilt in my life for whatever I did. If I did, why I did. If I didn't, why I didn't. If I say, why I say. If I didn't say, why I didn't. Or what if I could do this? Or what if, I cannot explain that guilt. And that was like a whole my life. So that's why I'm saying, like, if something is like a trade, like whole your life, so that's something what you're carrying and can be released. And I really love now, like, that I know who I am. I know that I'm that like a loving and giving person. But I choosing now, if I want to do something for the person, I doing deep from my heart, not because I have to please that person. So that's a huge difference. And a lot of stuff what I did before, now I have my voice back. Because before I would even not say anything, because like, who am I to say something? So I can talk and I can express myself. So what is really, I'm just sharing like all this, what's happened and how that goes. So I do believe that past lives, yes, you can carry, but more through the emotion or some lesson would as a soul level. Because
So you don't consider that karma.
No.
Like that event that happened then, which is causing you to be feel guilt now. You don't call that karma.
No, it's just the emotion, because I didn't learn my lesson. That is acceptance. My lesson, what I learned from that event is acceptance. And that was completely changed my life. That was one of the first breakthrough sessions I did for myself. And I, first time in my life, accept who I am and who I am not. And I was like, look myself in the mirror and passing, like, so for so many years, I never was happy with my look. It was always something missing. Well, whatever. So then I go in the mirror and like, I was so surprised, like you first time see somebody in the mirror. I was like, oh, you looks good. So now when the people telling me like you looks good or whatever, first I don't seeing that as a flirty reaction. I really accepting. And one of the major stuff what I learned to accept is the help. I learned to accept acknowledgement, because I would acknowledge other people. So as much as I was like strive on like really hungry about somebody to acknowledge me, I didn't accept that either, because I didn't believe. So that's something what for me was really like, I simply started living a life like almost newborn.
So I want to stop on the one thing you said, and you said accepting who I am and accepting who I'm not, right?
Yes.
But don't you think it's extremely difficult for anyone to understand what they are and who they are? Like we spend our whole lives trying to search for like that answer. Who am I? What am I?
I would say the first answer for that is just go in your 5 years old or 4 years old. These are actually our real who am I people. And this is like really when you can search and see your real personality in. So we are so conditioned by the society, by the parents, by the friends, by the churches or any religion, schools, that we learn to put the persona. That's when we talk about you have persona, ego, and shadow. So we put the persona. So we have a different personas for our parents. We have a different personas with our best friends. We have a different personas with our coworkers. We have different personas when we are with our boss or husbands or kids. Like we are different. And that's okay, because we I mean, it will be really stupid that you go as you're talking with your best friend and go talk to your boss. I mean, maybe we'll not finish the best way. So this is something what's also helping us, because a lot of people trying to control or like remove personas. So that will be same as you take a clothes off and naked go on the street. That doesn't work. So the trick is when you are learning who you are. So you will still have your persona, but there will be like a huge transparency. Instead of like having veils of like who you actually not, like you like to be jokester, you likes to be funny, you likes to be light spirited, but then you're so constrained. Like for example, in school, you're a teacher, and then that's your persona. You're so serious and like you keeping everything tight, and actually that's who you are. So when you're learning that you likes to joke, actually people will accept you, because people know similar as the dogs or animals, they can feel you and they know when you are fake. So what I'm trying to say is, like when you have too much persona, when you don't see your own face, when you don't know who you are or ignoring who you are, it's like where the problem starts, because you very often get rejected. Or there is situations when you're so good in your persona that you trick everyone else. But the worst part is when you trick yourself.
I was just going to ask you that.
Yeah, so that's kind of like when you start to believe that you are that other person. And that's like when you start working on yourself, certain stuff starts like revealing. So when you looks like what you're doing drain your energy, or what stuff you're doing boost your energy. So this is the first things when you can start discovering who you are. If you are like boosting your energy being in some social events or helping people, then yeah. So going back on the real estate, there is no bad wave of lead gen or right wave of lead gen. It's more finding your personality type. Some people are social butterflies. Go on the events, go meet people, do stuff. Some people are introverts like me. I love cold calling. So that for me was the best. I calling people who I don't know. I didn't like to call my database and talk about business, but people I don't know, I can sit hours and I have a best friends conversations with them. So that's like, and we all finding where we are. So nothing, there is no good or right or wrong way. It's just find where you find the joy. So that's like, if you start living life with the joy, when you start doing stuff what fill your bucket with happiness, with joy, with laughter, first you will be healthier. Second, you will feel that you live your life. And a lot of people are so overwhelmed with the energy drain activities, then on the end they're empty. Their bucket is empty. There is an echo in it.
But that finding joy, like that's why we're here.
Yes.
That is our purpose, to live a joyful, happy life. And that's enlightenment when you know that.
Yep.
Like, well, why am I here? How many times have we asked ourselves that? I had a guest on here, Dr. Renteria, and he said the two most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you realize why you were born. And I like that.
Yes, I really love that too. So that's when a lot of people thinking that being successful in career, being successful financially, like making more and more money, buying more fancy stuff, doing more fancy things, that's bringing a happiness. And actually, not necessarily. So there is a people like, like what you value. That's also like we as NLP coaches elicitate the values of the people. So they will know what is their top 5 values, let's put like that. And then the value is something with how you spend your time, how you value your time, and where you are really. And so it's make you happy when you do stuff what you value the most. So for me, it was like a family, and I did have a conflict working and family. So that was like a huge conflict of two values. So I was ambitious. My actually value not being ambitious is like just growth. I constantly wants to learn. I constantly wants to do something new. So there is no end on that. So of course, like when you're putting energy in the growth, if you're growing business, if you're growing knowledge, if you grow whatever it is, then that's take your time and energy. So on the other side, I'm a mom, and then what's now? So that like finally I reconcile. So to be when I'm with my son, I'm with him. So there is no calls. There is no nothing else. So like when it's his trainings or whatever is important for him, I'm there. It's not that 100%, so don't take me wrong. So there is a times, but I'm sure that there is somebody else who can fulfill that. And that is really once in, like, I don't know, like not that often, let's put like that. But on the other side, when I'm working, I'm working. So that's like where the people starts forgetting that maybe being with the friends, having parties every night, that's something what fulfilling. And I'm not talking about crazy parties like something, but welcoming people in Europe, like people visiting each other constantly in the houses. So some people enjoying in that. That's purpose of their life. They're social butterflies, and nothing wrong with that. So just kind of adjust your life to where you are and how you can live and really fulfill that. For me, it's like a travel. I really love traveling, and travel is one of my values. And now, of course, with family, so we do travel a lot. But then again, there is that balance. We work and then we travel, because that's how we filling our buckets, and like having family dinners, like organizing, like really having on Sundays or and Wednesdays. It's like, or if you can squeeze more during a week, that's even better. But this is something what we're really becoming very intentional. So no cell phones during a dinner. So we really talk. And to be honest, on the beginning was awkward, because there was like three people on the table who so addicted to the phones, and then suddenly like we need to talk, and then suddenly like during a time that's becoming really normal. And we have even, like, I can say that Tristan, who was very introverted, like barely talking, his answers was like really short, yes, no, and maybe one extra word. But that was it. Now he can even lead a conversation. So it's like changing, but it starts from us as a parents. And that was my value.
When you talk about the values, right, you said your top 5 values, and you talked about grow, right? Grow or growth.
Mm-hmm.
And my contention is this is the world according to me. Every human is in a state of change. We're always changing.
Mm-hmm.
We could be progressing, we could be regressing, but we're always changing. And I believe that we're beings that are meant to grow. That is where we find our joy. So growth could be in your profession, growth could be in parenting, all these things that you would say your values.
Yes.
There's growth involved in all of those.
Yes.
And I was thinking about my grandmother, my little Sicilian grandmother, right?
Mm-hmm.
Never had a goal. She probably couldn't even define what the word goal meant. She didn't work out ever, but she was the mother of 10 children. She was helping others grow, and that was fueling her own personal growth,
yes.
Right? So I think if we fall out of growth mode, we don't live a really good life.
Oh, 100%. I mean, there is no status quo. When the people saying the status quo, that's not. It's like either you swirl up or swirl down, but the status quo doesn't exist. And going back on that, like a mom, and because that's one of my values, like a family, really becoming a mom, bring first that challenge, because it was easy when no kids, no really thinking about. You just go and you grow, you learn, you just going constantly on some move, and obviously didn't have any issues changing a whole continent and starts my life here and everything else. So then once I become a mom, then immediately that's become not an issue, but concern. Like if I changing where I live, my timing, will I be here when he needs, like the reasons why I left the university and become a real estate agent, because I couldn't stand anymore that summer's passing by and I'm working. So I don't have that ability to take him on the beach when it's a good weather. And it was almost like a Murphy Law. When it's a weekend, it's raining. I was like, nice. So then through this short summer, what here is relatively short, we maybe a few times go on the pool or somewhere on the beach or something. And that's why it's like, no, I need something with more flexibility and something what will give me a chance to be a better mom. So then another thing, thanks to the Keller Williams and the big trainings in that time, because to be honest, in that time, and maybe if it wasn't the Keller Williams, I will never start working on my personal growth on that level, what I'm working right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of opens up for me, because one of these bold trainings we had, there was one of the bold coaches, and it was a time management and like what is important in your lives. Didn't really word like this, but very similar topics. And I was like, but my family, I knew it. My family is very important. But then he was like, okay, so you have a listing appointment and you have some event with your son. Where you will go? And I looked at him, I was like, listing appointment. He was like, then don't like fool yourself. Family is not important. Your business is. And that was almost like knife straight in your gut, like I was like, wait a minute. But that's when we're talking about awareness. That as much as I really didn't like his answer, I was expecting some spectacular, like a coach answer, but that I didn't. And I was like, no, I know that my family is important. And I know I choosing business over my family. So that was true statement too. Then I discovered that's like being in conflict. So I even have more time in the real estate, obviously, but then I will take my son in the park, and guess what I will do? Being on the phone, texting, negotiating, talking, instead of playing with him. So the same thing, we're going on the pool. So I will be on the computer, my famous fancy office, like everyone posting on the Facebook, instead of playing with him in the water. So, and that's how, when you said that on the Facebook, that his face before was more closed up and like he wasn't that much open as now, I'm also seeing that as a mom. So thanks God I did my work, because otherwise I will have a guilt how I didn't see that in that moment. Sadness in his eyes, like being absent, being so closed. And there was moment in our life when very stupid things happened. So I can say he did something very stupid, and it's that kind of wake up call. I'm so grateful, and so I'm thanking God that that was serious enough to bring me to my attention, to like when you're going to the red. So that was for me like the red position, when you really alerted on everything, but then not serious enough that he can have a consequences, like a lifetime consequences. So I was, and even now I'm doing a lot of walk meditations. And that was my time to kind of like process what's happened, because I couldn't believe that kid from 0 go to the 100 in millisecond. Like that's how like stuff moved. And I was like, who am I fooling? I want to be coach. I cannot help my family. And then in that moment, that voice can be God, can be my higher self, can be however we wants to name that, said, you have everything what you need for your son and your family. And I then came home, because until that moment I did here or there, like a few stuff for the other people, but never with my family. So I never really implement anything what I'm learning from neuro-linguistic programming, from other trainings I was on. And I was like, no, I got this. And that was the first time when we did mental emotional release, like first these negative emotions. And it was interesting how he released the anger. And I did explain to him, I was like, look, you are like a volcano. And you have two types of volcanoes. Volcanoes who are so quiet for hundreds of years, even thousands of years. And then when they explode, they destroy everything. And you have volcano who is puking every here or there, and they're never really destroying. They're just kind of releasing. So like, I was like, instead of you holding that, because don't forget that kid was witnessing all our fights, and that can be really ugly and a lot of insecurity. So he starts making his own reality. As I said, my reason why I divorced is when I realized that we actually don't doing any favor being together. It's better to be separate.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then what's really stuck with me, and I'm working with a lot of parents, that key of the good parenting and having a kid. So I can proudly say that my son is not talking back to me. He is a teenager, and there is no ugly conversations. There is no like slamming the doors. There is no any this crazy stuff what the people have it. He's a great student. He's great in sports right now. He really like when, thanks God, I like don't want to change any of this. Like he's one of like easygoing. That doesn't mean he doesn't have his little teenager tantrums. Yes, he does when he blow up all his hormones out. But there is no serious stuff. You know what the people really dealing. And what I'm talking to the parents when I'm helping them, most of them are moms. Like I was like, the key is you. If you want your kid to change, you need to change. So I starts to be that person, you know, like sometimes like I had huge charge on lie. If somebody lying, oh my God, like that's it. Like I would be having some ugly reactions on that. I still don't like liars because trustworthiness is one of my top values. So, but I don't have a charge anymore. I can say, okay, you lied. This is going against my values. So we will figure out how not to be and work together. So that's about it. But then I learned that, you know, as a kid, I think that was Tristan's survival kit, what he has with him all the time, lies. So like to survive his father, to survive situations, what was like he would lie. And that was even stronger than him. Even I was telling him, you know, if you tell me a lie, the truth that you will never be in trouble, just tell me. And it was like endless conversations like that. I was like, you know, you're always in trouble when you lie to me. So don't lie to me. And he just once said, like, it's stronger than me. So then I stopped having reactions on his lies. I just even started joking. I was like, when I asked you second time and said, be sure like to check everything what you have, I was like, that's a giving you sign that I already know your answer. So don't go around. So it's also on the beginning when he would start like a talking bad, because that's really did happening on the beginning. I checked myself, where I am, where is my emotions, and then I just simply start talking something like what's kind of coming down that conversation. So, or not react on his bad talk. What, for example, was make Andrew completely crazy. You know, he was like, but he's talking bad. I was like, I don't care. This talking bad really not affecting the life. I know what I want. I want him to be good in school and to be disciplined in school. And I was focused on that. Another thing what I did is something what every single parent should do until age of 10, because then they stop believing us. We stop to be that superheroes, because just the way how the brain evolving, now the friends becoming more important than parents after like 10, 12. Every time when he would go to school, he was struggling with school. Like that was real disaster. I would say you're a straight A student. Everyone loves you. You're a great friend. You always have fun. And somehow that age of first, second grade, third grade, it was really going well. He starts improving. So from D, C, B student, let's say like that, he become A's and maybe some B's until he got like a straight A's. So there we had also situation. That's why I'm saying, like, as a parent, when you need to check yourself, it starts like you didn't clean up your room. Classic conversation of every single parent. And that was like going deeper and deeper, and how much I don't care about him. And then he was like, leave me alone. So he did slam the door once, but only once in the entire life so far. And that moment when he slammed the door in front of my face is like, should I just take the door out as every other parent, be cool? Or like, like it was like a million these solutions, what usually parents do. And I was like, nope, he will open a door, because that's like, the point is they need to do something. Because if we are doing something, that's a force. When you tell them to do it and they do it, so that means they still have respect for you. So I asked him to open the doors. He did. And then he starts like all these like blub of the teenager, how much it's not important, how much I look at him only if he's a straight A student. I don't care who he is. I want him only to be lawyer and doctor and blah, blah, blah. And I was exhausted. It was the end of my day. So, like the stuff happening. And I had like, through my mind is going, should I go and go downstairs and let him cool off and then come again upstairs and talk, or should I stay? And then my voice, again, that famous voice said, no, if you go downstairs, he will live in his own stories, because he's just telling them. If I stay there, we can figure out. And then when he was saying how much I don't care about, like, if he's a bad student and blah, blah, I was like, look, I, as a parent, will not lie to you. Every parent likes when the kids are successful. Lawyers and doctors, it's kind of success, doesn't necessarily, but kind of proving something. But I was like, I will say for myself that I'm a successful parent only if I see you happy. So whatever you choose to do in your life, however you live your life, if I see you that you are deeply happy with what you have, with what you are doing, and who you are, actually should be who you are and doing and having, like, I will be really happy person. For me, that's a success as a parent. And then he kind of completely melt down. So from this, like, starts with a tough teenager talking back to completely throw up like blah of emotions and everything, to the end he was like, I know if it wasn't you. That was for me the biggest compliment as a parent. He said that if it wasn't you, I know that I will be dropped out from the school. God knows what will be with me. Maybe I will be in jail or even dead. So that was like, I know that because in the one point I told him I'm doing the best what I can. That doesn't mean I'm doing the best. I don't mean I'm doing right. I was like, you guys don't coming with manual. It's like I need to figure out how to handle you in the moment. So that's how, and that's how that everything started changing. That he really becoming part of the family. We have a really conversation. He stopped lying. He would come and tell me, like, especially if something unfair happened, and even like some stupid stuff, like, when they making goofy games during a lunchtime in the school and then get the lunch in detentions. I know them. So there is no hide anymore. And I have more and more trust
I have so many notes here now about the parenting thing. I want to go back to when you were talking about do I go to a son's function or do I go to a listing appointment, right? And then they leverage that with you to say, well, then your business is more important then. So my counterpoint to that is that this is what I told my sons growing up. Money isn't everything, but it's almost everything when you don't have enough. Then you have a dark cloud following you around. So the mission is to have enough. If you have enough, you're good. If you have a little bit extra, that's even better, but you could actually have too much money and it screws everything up. So to that end, when I was raising my kids, there were periods of time where I was entrenched in my business, and I will admittedly say I missed out on some of the stuff. But on the back end, we have a house, everything's paid for, and I was able to give them a good education and all that stuff. So there is a balance line that's very hard, I think. It's very hard to find. But to my joy, Dorothy, she ran the household and she was hands-on with them and everything. So there was always at least one parent there.
But that's the difference, because I didn't have the other parent. It was me. So what I got from that lesson is you're in control of your schedule. So, and I 100% agree. When we're in survival mode, like when we really fight to bring the bread on the table, I think that's like, even that kids then recognize that, and the kids really acknowledging these parents. When they said, my father or my mom work like 12-hour shift, 2 jobs, there is all kind of stories about that. But we always have everything. We always have a food on the table. We always have the clothes and everything else. And then there is that other side when you said when you're making too much. So the people in the one point get into that greed of more and more and more. So I read really great book, Enough. And I really asked that my question, what is enough? So what is that? Like, that doesn't mean you stop working. That doesn't mean you now, oh, I'm done. No. But what is that enough that you will not grind that hard? That you're giving yourself permission to rest, and you're giving yourself permission to be kid again, to goofy around, to do the stuff you love. Because it's so much like more and more and more, and like money. And in the end, I know a lot of people who are financially very successful, and unfortunately they dealing with that silent suffer of kids doing the drugs or kids like completely in some, I don't know, degradable stage of life. So doesn't mean they cannot recover and move on, but you need to find that kind of balance. And I really 100% agree when you have a spouse who is there, it's like the kids can understand because they have that balance. But then for the single parents, either father or mother, mostly it's like single moms, but now it's more and more single dads too. It's tough, especially if you don't have support system like a grandparents or the friends. Like then it's kind of like you need to learn.
So I had a kind of a discussion with my son when he was an adult. He's like, well, I just get the idea that, if I were, made $110,000 a year, you'd be proud of me. And I said, I already am proud of you. Okay. But I have something that you don't have. I've been in a part of my life where I didn't have money, and I've been in a part of my life where I've made a lot of money. You don't have that experience. So when I'm giving you guidance about go out, be all you can be, so you have enough money and hopefully a little bit more, I know what that means versus not having enough. So I'm giving you advice based on personal experience, and you're giving me counterpoint based on you don't have the experience. And he's like, fair enough, Dad, right? So, but like you said, as an early father, I would say, I have 3 sons. I want them to be athletic. I want them to be high achievers in school. I want them to go out in the world and tackle the business world or whatever and make a lot of money. And there was a lot of that going through my brain. But then, as they got older and, they find their own paths, and you realize I don't have any straight A students. I don't have, well, actually I do, but, they're starting not to fulfill my unrealistic expectations, right? And I'm like, I have to make some adjustments here because I cannot measure them by what I did because we're all different.
Yep.
I can't expect them to be and do what I do, and I can't even say egotistically, you have my blood running through you, and you should be this, that, and the other, right? So I go, well, what's really important? And this is back to what you said to your son. I want my sons to live a happy life, but to me, I actually drew out the components of a happy life. What will give them a happy life? One is that they're kind to people. They're first responders for their friends and family in need. Yep. When they shake somebody's hand and says, I will do something for you, they do it. They're men of integrity. And if they do those 3 things and they work hard and they care about people, they'll have a happy life, right? So that's what I want for them. It doesn't matter about how much they make and what they achieve. It's that they've figured out that little formula, right? And kindness is the biggest life hack of all time. Because when you give kindness to somebody, you get a more rate of return than you're giving them, right? That's the biggest cheat in life, is just to be kind. And I want them to be kind.
I mean, that's like what I said. I think Zig Ziglar is the one who said that if he wants to achieve something, do that for the other people. So if he wants to get something, just give that to the other people. And that's kind of coming to, I would say, like, we always see the kids. I mean, especially the first one. It's always that fun. The first one always get a hit because we are so idealistic in that. Oh, I will do this and my kid will be that and all that. And then the kid's different. Then you got, like in your case, 3 sons, and they're 3 different personalities. They're 3 different identities. And very often we treat them same. Especially I'm seeing like same, my moms and dads, but let's say in this case, like a dad with the 3 sons. And every dad wants to tough them up. And like you said, like that's something like so normal and usual response for every dad, like athletic and be good man. And like you don't cry, you're always doing, you're always outgoing and all that. But then they're different. So sometimes maybe they're a little bit more soft. By soft, I don't mean anything negative. It's just kind of that more gentle soul. Mm-hmm. And these kids need a different attachment, like different approach. Because what's happening is we have that in the NLP, like one son would say that thanks to dad being so tough and keeping them so in check, even maybe sometimes get a little bit physical spankings, make them the men who they are now, and they're very proud of that. But then you have another one who almost had a nerve breakdown, just because the dad raised the voice. And that doesn't mean that other person is weaker. It's just the different soul. It's just the different approach. So sometimes with these kids, like even the girls, some girls are like all that going and everything, and some of them are really that gentle souls, likes to play with the dolls and are really living different. So if we are coming to their level and looking through their eyes, we actually becoming way better parents. Instead of treating them same and applying same rules, what doesn't work.
And that's interesting. And I see it all the time. Brothers and sisters are raised by the same parents. They all turn out completely different. And you're like, how does that happen? Opposite political views, opposite this, opposite that. And then sometimes I think the sibling rivalry has an effect. So my wife has on one of her parents' side, there was 8 kids, okay, her aunts and uncles. And we went out to dinner with the youngest of the 8, her uncle.
Yeah.
And we were talking, and I said, which one of your siblings are you close with? And he goes, none of them. I don't talk to any of them. I'm like, really? How was that possible? He said, well, when I was little, I was the youngest one, and they treated me like a child, and I never had a voice. So this guy's 80 years old, and he's still holding a grudge. Isn't that something?
Yeah. So that's, like when you look at reality is real for the people. But it doesn't mean it's the same reality. We have 8 billion peoples. We have 8 billion realities. You have a siblings. One sibling will said, oh, do you remember this was a great vacation when we go and, for example, fishing with the dad and blah, blah, blah. And then the other sibling would say, that was the nightmare vacation. I had, I was freezing on that boat and didn't I want to, so we really have exactly same things happens to as many people in the room. We will all remember different. We will all experience different. And I think that's the magic of the life. And I kind of love that. But then when you start looking the people through their own eyes and their own experience, and instead of you judging them, because that's what's killing a lot of relationships and a lot of opportunities when we come with the judgment or expectations. And then that person even doesn't have any chance. You're growing only to the level what is space created. So if you kill that space right away with your expectations, especially unspoken expectations, because we think if we're expecting, of course you should know what I'm expecting, and they never speak out what they're expecting, and then of course that didn't happen, then it's complete breakdowns.
Let me ask you this, because we blew through your whole life, and I didn't ask you about faith. Where do you stand with faith in God?
So by religion, I'm Orthodox Christian, and we had a really fun relationship because growing in the communist part, country, religion was actually taboo, and you're not talking. People who would go to the church usually would be kind of separated because it wasn't the thing you should do. But then again, as I said, my family, you had the communists and then you had for the king. So guess people for the king, they were for the God too. So my grandfather, he was, again, the famous grandfather, he would take me to the certain churches and monasteries just to take a water because there was some natural wells there. So we would take it was good for the health and drinking. And somehow that was always happen on some big religious days. But then they were so afraid that I will go around and talking. So they will always have some cover-up stories. So almost like a spy stories, how we end up in the church. So I, again, with my mom, who was very that light spirit. So she thought that if you want, we as Orthodox, we got Christianing as a babies. So we don't have communions, none of that. So she said that I should be Christian when I'm adult enough so that if I'm taking religion, I know what I'm taking and what I'm accepting. So I was actually Christian at the age of 24. So that was another fun story with my godparents who are really very comic, and especially my godmother. So we had same time the baby christening with 50 something people. And we on the other side of the church, my mom, I, and my godparents. On the end of event, all these 50 people come to our side and laughing on the stand-up comedy. So it was completely ridiculous. So, and that was kind of great. But then regarding that, I do believe in God. But then I don't like religion. I don't because I believe that declaring you're Christian, you're Muslim, you're Jewish, Buddhist, that separate people. So where I end up, and that's something way stronger than me, my personal belief, that there is a God, and we all calling a God. So now we declare like a Jesus, like a Mohammed, or Moshe, whatever, like I now cannot say on English, whatever. So, and that's for me is like where the people fights. And for me, religions are source of the war. And I don't accept that. And I mean, this is a podcast. Maybe I should not say that, but that's where I stand. I really believe that God exists, that like some people calling universe, I really believe that God is nothing than love, that God doesn't have a judgment, that God accepts you with who you are, even with the worst things you've done in your life. But then I really believe that religion is the first made control system, how to control big masses, because in that time you didn't have anything to control. So to religion and involving from Egyptian and like whatever that exists very long time, we kind of learn to be control and like in the fear the God will punish us, the God will happen this. And because I just recently returned back from Serbia, and it's very interesting that people really believe in God, going to church. They're very, when you looks like that, very spiritual and very religious. But on the other side, I'm looking them, and in the house they're fighting. I was like, where the God is here? Like, so they're kind of like doing a lot of stuff what church says to do. They're doing a lot of stuff what is in the Bible, but then in the practical, when you love your family, when you love your friends, when you're really helping the other people, so they don't see that on that level. So they will be very rude to their spouses, or very rude to the kids, or jealousies on the work, or constant like some fight about like a money. And it's not just Serbia, that's actually happening here. But just because I was there and pretty much on vacation, and it was really exposed to, oh, the God this, God that. And then on the end, when you looks like on the family level, for me, that is like real, the sample of how you're living your life. You don't protecting that through the God will.
One of the things that makes me scratch my head is when I see Christians, people who, they pray, they go to church, they read the Bible, but they worry all the time.
Yeah.
You are not doing what you've been taught, right? The most repeated phrase in the Bible is do not fear, right?
Yeah.
And if you do not fear, then you do not worry. But yet people worry a lot.
Yes, and then also what the people allowed is to be like step on it. So also in the same Bible, like they said, love yourself and love others. So if you allow the other people to treat you as some second citizen, like person, or almost a slave, that's another thing. What's like, it's really not what God meant to be. So people not stand up for themselves. They always think it's okay. And then the God will grant me blah, blah. The God will help, or let them God judge them or something. So for me, it's like really not taking a responsibility. So like almost hiding behind the God. It's like I did a lot of Ho'oponopono, for example, what is Hawaiian forgiveness. And they really truly believe you need to let it go. So it's not forgiveness of forgiving as much as really you remembering it's happened, but then you don't have that little charge or like little emotions of what's happened. You really let it go. It's happened and that's it. And with Serbian, especially people, they will like, oh, yeah, I forgive them. That's between them and God. So you actually really not forgive them. You let God to judge to that person instead of really being free of like what's happening. So I just giving Serbians as example, but I really think that's happening everywhere. The people who believe in God, they will always put like, oh, let God make a judgment. I was like, first, there is no judgment. It's like we are not on court. But then the second is like when you're looking into it, where the love is there. Because I really, how I'm perceiving the God, how I'm perceiving that higher source of controlling and having everything around is love, that unconditional love. And we condition a lot.
They say when you forgive somebody, you're the beneficiary, not them, right?
Yes.
Because you're releasing something that's not good for you. Right? You're letting go.
Yeah, I mean, we have these situations like I will never forgive my ex-husband, for example, or my ex-wife, like blah, 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 let them suffer. Who really suffer?
Right.
Like you or them? Or
Yeah.
especially if that other person already in another relationship, happy, you can see everywhere, and you're the one who is in that grid and it's like, no. So you're actually hurting yourself. And that's what I cannot express enough, that like how much forgiving it's really benefit you.
Okay, so let's hit on this because you have Neuro-Linguistic Programming, NLP, which you're a coach in. Uh, if you had to summarize what that is, what is that?
The best is like the same, like it's telling you, neuro-linguistic programming is like how your internal self-talk and how that's programming you. So again, I'm giving myself as example. I had a lot of negative thoughts like about myself. I would be, again, having my Joker face, but then inside me is like, oh my God, how that's stupid. You're stupid. Like, who are you fooling? Why are you even trying to do that? So it's a lot of that insecurity and internal thoughts, what very often going undiscovered. And once you kind of become aware of that conversation, I was almost like addicted to self-pity. I love to self-pity myself. Going and like, oh my God, and then starts imagining the whole movies, poor me, even starts crying in the poor me, like almost like a real movie. And then during this work, I first starts realizing that I'm doing that. Then the second, how much I'm enjoying in self-pitying. It was really
You get addicted to it, don't you?
Yeah. It's like poor me. And then like just imagine the crazy Hollywood possible scenarios for the movies, poor me, but then somehow I make myself to be like that superhero on the end, but I know it's a fake. But then in the one point I said, okay, I'm driving, and then that's thoughts like just simply coming. So you cannot control them. That's when we said unconscious. And then I was aware of that. And it's like, okay, so now I can do that. I will allow myself, but not more than 15 minutes. And then I would just be in the guilt-free mode for 15 minutes. And then that stopped. And somehow it was so funny. I'm not watching a clock to say, okay, so it's a 15 minutes past, so I need to stop this. My unconscious stopping. And then I start 10 minutes, 5 minutes. Guess what? It's never come back. I just simply kind of like help myself to walk away from that. Recently, what I figured out what was one of the best victories in the recent time, I would usually get upset if I do something repeatedly and like it's stupid. So for example, I would go upstairs on the printer to pick up some paper. So I'm going the 5 times to my office to pick up paper from printer. First time I bring some book. Second time I went to the room, pick up something from the first floor to leave in the office. again, returning back without paper. Third time, then I go again with intention to pick up paper from the printer, go in the Tristan's room and pick up something from his, again, turn back. So anyway, fifth time, I finally starts laughing. I was like, this is funny. I actually doing a great exercise. I'm going upstairs already 5 times with not doing like what I said. So then finally I go there and I pick up the paper laughing. So even my son was laughing with me about that. So, but that is like my change of my perception, because that's what is neuro-linguistic. Before I will be, my God, I don't have time for this. Like, am I so stupid? What's wrong with me? Like all these kind of internal conversations, and we all have them. So the question is, some people wants to accept and not accept, admit to have them, or they will just say, no, I'm so good. So, I mean, narcissists are always good. So they're not lying about that. So that's like what neuro-linguistic really doing. So catching your internal conversations, because what you are saying yourself, you're usually bringing emotions, and the brain doesn't know what's real, what's not. If the emotions are involved in your thinking, for brain, it's real.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, for example, if something happened and you, for example, you had somebody, for example, hit you and you spilled the coffee, and you're coming to the office and it's a white shirt, and now you stain like a blue, not blue, the brown stain is like on the, and then you already upset, you already call your best friend, you're coming to the coworkers, and can you imagine this person hit me and I spill all my coffee, then somebody else come and it's a whole that emotions. On the end, you're coming back home and you're taking to your spouse. So you actually relived like a God know how many times exactly same event. And your brain is like, okay, so if somebody spills something on me, so then you're taking all these like protection actions, your ego, so that you're wiring the same neurons instead of like, okay, it's happened, it suck. I mean, you cannot say that having a stain and not be able to change, it will bring a joy, but you're not talking about that. I said I had an accident and that's it. So every time when the emotions are not involved in your story, then it's a story. It's not anymore.
So tell me if I'm practicing neuro-linguistic programming, because I study a lot of neuroscience.
Mm-hmm.
These are what I try to teach people. Mm-hmm. What you think about, you bring about. So
Yep.
The more you repeat a thought process, you build a neural network in your brain. Sometimes those neural networks can get hardwired in your brain, and you'll always default to that. So if you're getting a pessimistic way of thinking, you build a pessimistic neural network, and then everything becomes gloom and doom, right?
Yep.
So then the other thing about getting addicted to that, and this is from Joe Dispenza, he says, when you get in a certain way of thinking, if you're thinking negatively, for instance, your brain will produce chemicals that your body actually gets addicted to, and the body tells the brain, continue this because
Yes.
I need it. Same thing with good thoughts and optimism, and even like adrenaline, right? Adrenaline
Yes.
junkie, that's a real thing, right? You get addicted to that. And then I also heard this in my studies. I just described when you think about it, you bring about it, but what you say out loud is 10 times more powerful in wiring your brain than if you just think it. So if you, in the morning, you wake up on a Monday morning and you say to yourself quietly, I'm going to have a shit day today, or you say it out loud with your actual mouth, it's 10 times more powerful in wiring the brain, is what I've heard. So these are the things that I think about, and then in the application of these understandings, I try to reframe things. So a couple of years ago, I had 2 good epiphanies that helped me live a better life. One is I believe in time is my most precious commodity. I don't want to waste time. I want to maximize my present. But the flip side to that is when I felt I was wasting time, which would be in a traffic jam or you have a 9 o'clock dentist appointment, they don't get you until 10:30, I'll get pissed off. You're wasting my life, right? And I'm like, I don't want to think that way because I'm not maximizing my present. I'm pissed off in my present. So how do I reframe that? Well, I said, well, in the traffic jam, there's nothing I can do. Can't get there any faster. Doesn't do any good to worry. So what can I focus on that will relieve me of thinking I'm wasting time? Well, I got a nice car. I got nice music. I can multitask and start calling up friends and things like that, right? So it's like, okay, so I'm not wasting time there. And then the doctor's office or the dentist's office, I'm like, well, I can learn something here. I can watch the way they're handling their business and watch the secretaries or whatever doing the paperwork. I can speak with people inside who are waiting, or I can make some more phone calls, right? So that was one thing. And then another thing that was bothering me is when you let somebody merge in traffic and they don't wave to you. Yeah. It's like, what an asshole, right? Yeah. So I didn't want to get angst about that. So I asked myself, well, why are you letting them in? Well, I'm letting them in to be courteous. Well, why are you being courteous? Well, because it's part of my personal code to be kind to people. So it really is irrelevant if they wave thank you or not. I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for me. Are these examples of neuro-linguistic programming, what I'm describing to you?
Yes, you're actually reframing. So that's one part of the neuro-linguistic coaching and philosophy of that. If you reframe person, and they're always joking with the real estate agent, they said that we are perfect reframers for some small, really raggedy house. It's a cozy.
That's right.
Yeah. So if you have person to look from the different perspective or different context, you're actually helping them to don't see the negative way. So example is woman hates when the kids comes and she just vacuum, and that you see the stripes of the vacuum and all that. So the question was, okay, now imagine that you're by yourself or your kids are gone. So either gone and living their own life, they're gone, you divorce and they're gone with the father, maybe something bad happened to them, they're gone. You're by yourself. And your carpet looks so perfect, every time you vacuum. She was all in the tears. Well, I don't want my kids to go. So now it's completely she's happy to see the steps when she vacuumed, because that's mean the kids are still there. They're still small. They're still enjoying. So there is two actually situations when somebody cut you off and then you get road rage. That's mean you have stuck anger and you need to release. But in your case, you really reframe. It's not about them. It's about who you are, and you're doing that for yourself. So you actually letting them in. So regardless what the gesture is, you are the one who is in that decision making. So that's actually really one of the great examples. And also how you can reframe the time, and you are probably judges. So I can bet you're always on time and everything is as a clock. Because they said you have a perceivers and judges. Judges are always on time, and perceivers are okay, we have time. That's a last minute running in and all. Well,
I gotta share something with you. I am typically not on time. I'm about 50% on time, rarely early, and about 50% a few minutes late. And I read an article that said optimists are routinely late because they think they can jam everything in there. Oh, I got time. It only takes me 15 minutes to get there. Right? So I'm going to go with that. I'm an optimist. And that's why I'm habitually late.
So that's kind of then different, because I give that as example because Andrew is always on time. So if you are late on his appointments, or if he's late on the appointment, that is a big break of integrity and respect. So, and I'm really more relaxed. I'm on time where I have to be, but the people is I always optimistically squeeze more stuff than I really can do it. So But for you, it's actually the value of time. You actually realize that time is one of the most valuable things we have. And I love that book, The 5 Levels of Wealth. And when he's talking about, when everyone's talking about dollar billionaires, but no one really talking about second billionaires, like the kids when they're young. So they're actually billionaires in time because they have so much time ahead of them. Like when you look in seconds, that's billions of seconds. And then we don't appreciate that. We actually never think about that until you have that situation. I love when they ask like one young kid, will they change the life with Warren Buffett, like having all his money, like what is over $100 billion. And he is like 90 something years old. So his life expectancy is like relatively low. Mm-hmm. So they asked the young kid, okay, so if you change the time, so you are him and you have all the money, will you do it? And it's like, no. So that's when the people start realizing how much the time is important. Mm-hmm. And we are so, we don't respect that. We are wasting our time. With always that, we have more time. Like always chasing something else, always looking for something more. And there is so many examples when the people like, oh, I will like almost there, I will get a new job. And then suddenly certain stuff like either illnesses or the person, some accidents and people are not there anymore or get really seriously injured. Then you really realize that time is everything what we have. And that's what I'm saying. Like, sometimes you really have to do the best what you can with people you have around because there is no guarantee for even like not tomorrow, for the next hour.
Or the next second even.
Yeah.
So here's what I do. One of my things is heavily anchored in gratitude. So I think about all the things I'm grateful for. And I can make everything in my life something to be grateful for. So that's the first thing. The next thing is, and my dear friend Tommy Heights told me, he said, you're a stoic. And I said, what's a stoic? And he said, it's an ancient Greek philosophy, and the Stoics believed in 2 principles. One is memento mori, which means remember you will die. And they didn't use it morbidly. They used it to say, hey, my time is not guaranteed. I don't want to waste it. And then the second principle is amor fati, which is love of fate. I love my fate, right?
Yeah.
So those are the 2 things I think about every day to live my best present moment. And I've already told myself, I used to say, I've already lived a good life. And now I say, I've lived 2 good full lifetimes already. So I proceed on with no fear, and that's a big deal. And then the next thing is, it's not about goal setting and hitting the mark. It's about you're on your mission. Was I on my mission today? Whatever it is I wanted to do, did I work on it?
Yes.
Did I proceed with gratitude? Did I not have angst or anxiety? And as long as I'm on my mission, then it's a perfect day. It doesn't matter if I get from point A to point B. How much money am I going to make? Am I going to close the deal on the house? All that matters is I'm on the mission. That's how I look at it.
And I would just add that, like, especially the gratitude, if you look alive with the gratitude and when you're really grateful for everything happening, that's when you really start living a magical life. And there is that exercise that you start the day with few gratitudes in the morning, because that sets your vibration on the higher vibration. So that's actually when you manifest the good stuff, because you kind of attracting the good stuff. Mm-hmm. And we also, like, for example, in NLP, we coaching on, I will give example like a relationship with money. So a lot of people wants to have the money. First, they don't even know for what they want the money. So, okay, first is survival, another one is good life, but they even don't know what is that good life for them. Mm-hmm. So they kind of thinking buying this and that will bring. So it's potentially not. So then on the other side, they have that negative relationship with money. Like, as I said, my before was like people who has money probably evil, or the money always bringing something, like, so there is some background of that. So that's what we kind of releasing and making go away. And then they also don't realize that money is currency. It's really flow. It's energy. And to really have money, you have to let it go. So like when we're talking about is like giving, a lot of people are very stiffed about giving to somebody, and it's always kind of here we go, and they're like, then you're actually really blocking, you're making a wall so that money cannot come in you, like towards you, if you're blocking to go away. So when we're also talking about the gratitude is like, when I pay the bill, it's not about like, oh, I'm so grateful I pay my bill, like especially if property taxes that like, so, but you can say and express the gratitude that you had the money to pay. So it didn't stress you out, that you make easy. So in case like kid go to the like after sports in emergency room, you can express, no, oh, I'm so like grateful, like we finished today in the hospital and after the game. No, that's not the point. So you can say, I had enough money, so I'm grateful that I had money, so that bill is not like, even it's a very negative event. So that's what people forgetting. They're forgetting to thanks when they're paying something for. Oh, they're very grateful when they get money. But then when you kind of giving a money, then it's like, oh, why I'm giving? So like always complaining, always like having the issues. So instead of saying like exactly what you said, I had opportunity or to do something, what I obviously didn't. So that's what's kind of like NLP is really reframing and finding the way. Also like important stuff, we talk about the patterns in the life when the certain stuff's happening. Famous one, when you're dating the same person because you never learn lesson from the day one, doesn't necessarily, some people even looks the same. So, when they're telling you date exactly the same person until you finally learn the lesson and move on to the second grade. So, and then also like we as a coach is looking as a strategist. So that's very important that you find the successful strategy so you can coach person to succeed in whatever is, can be health. Like they may be super successful in business, but they're overweight and they know that if continue, they will start having a health issues and they want to be there for the family and whatever they want to do in the life. So then you kind of then apply the successful strategy, what they already have installed in them on something else to something what they struggle with. And that's kind of going through the neuro-linguistic programming because you're programming them. You're kind of bridging.
So I don't know if you remember this, but that presentation that Yvette and I did for realtors, it starts out with I'm standing with a ladder, right? And I talk about, I work so hard as a realtor and many realtors make more money than me. And then I systematically lower myself. Then I'm on my knees. Then I'm on my face on the floor. And then I look at all those things from the flip side, right? And I get to stand up and I go, I love being a realtor and I make plenty of money. And then I start adding on and climb the ladder. And then I say at the top of the ladder, for every negative thing that happens to us, there's a positive counterpoint. And, if we get really good at the reframe, right, then life, I boxed this word in, you said magical. Yeah. You can make your life magical.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, it's very simple. Doesn't mean it's easy, but it's very simple that you get into the magical life. And, when you see some people like, oh, everything going well with them, like they have a good family, they have like a money, they travel or they do whatever. And you think from outside like, oh my God, they're so lucky and I am not lucky. But then they don't realize that first they're grateful. And I really believe more grateful you are, more positive thoughts you have. So I even coach in the one point, there was a woman like, I don't know, it was depression, like clinical depression. I'm not, and I never claim I'm anything as a MD psychiatrist or psychologist. But then she would have like really dark thoughts all the time. And then I was like, how about we going back to Joe Dispenza, because the what is like the neurons, when they wake up, they fire together. And that's like, if you have a negative thoughts, the same neurons, so that you're changing this addiction to the certain chemicals. So I was like, okay, so as soon, you cannot control the first thought. That happens. That's something unconscious, but you can control the second one. So now when you're aware of your negative thoughts and the black, like she was really in that like completely dark thinking. And I was like, okay, let's then change and do something like what you really make a joy in your life. She was like, there is nothing make a joy in my life. And I know that woman is a mother. I was like, okay, is that mean that your child, when you gave a birth, it was like, move this thing out of? And she was like, oh no, this was one of my past, like you need people to remind, because when you're in that negative cloud, you're forgetting to the great experience you had in the life. It's becoming like, because that's when we're talking about gain and gap. They're always in that gap that they even don't see what they gain, what they have, and they're not grateful on that. And then, I remind her of a few other things in her life, and I was like, how about that? She was like, oh yeah, that's another great moment in my life. And I was like, okay, so now when you have these dark thoughts, how about you consciously start thinking about your kid? How you think about that moment when you first time hold that kid in your hands, because I know it's very powerful for majority of the women. I will not say every woman, but it's very strong. And that's how you kind of start changing perspective of your thinking. Similar as myself, like allow myself to be pity myself like for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then eventually was gone, because I was in that trace and trend to remove completely. And I would say one more thing, because you said like the way how we're thinking about unconscious mind is like 3 years old level and doesn't understand negations. So that's when we're talking about language. Especially when you're speaking loud, and like that has more like stronger meaning and like impulse. When you're saying, I don't want to live like this for 20 years, you actually really said to your unconscious, I want to live like this 20 years. So then your unconscious life supporting, unconscious life is connected to the higher self. That's kind of like a body. We also have like a self, like what we have, and it's connected to the God and to that like a divine energy. So they're supporting you. Oh, you want to live like this. So let's create the life so you're living like this 20 years. But if you start using a language, I want to change my life, so I'm living, and then say what you want. So, but we always saying, don't forget to bring like whatever. And then instead of remember to bring. So these are like a little things like what we giving the commands, like especially going back for the parents. Don't do this because, like, when I was growing up, oh, don't fight with people, you will finish in jail. Don't steal because you will finish. Don't be bad students. Don't. And then these kids really becoming that, because you on the unconscious level telling them, don't be a liar. So you are the liar. Don't be a bad person. That person starts believing it's bad. So that's like, we really need to be very conscious about language with ourselves first, and then trickle down to the everyone we are around.
I couldn't agree more. So how do we get people to have that metacognition where they are aware of what they're thinking and feeling? Isn't that one of the first hurdles?
Yes. So as I said, like you have two ways of enlightening yourself. So you can through the action. So, some of the coaches, they're more like accountability, like more like a mentors. I did this way, so these are the steps, without really adjusting the coaching to your personality, who you are. So if you're lucky to find somebody similar to you and did the life similar how you like, that's great. That's when they said, oh my God, that coaching was amazing. But then what's happening, like if you are coachable, what most people are not, but let's say for people who are, with the repetition of the certain actions, even if you don't believe that person is holding you accountable, that person is cheering you, like, so you kind of start repeating. Of course, results will start happening. Then after these results, you will start getting certain acknowledgments or having certain stuff. So then you actually really becoming through these actions, not because you get something, because you start acting differently, you start thinking differently, you start approaching stuff differently, you becoming a different person. So your identity change. So then you start loving. I was like, oh my God, this is so good. I am, then whatever is that person is, like you start loving yourself. And that's how you change through the actions. So some people can change through the actions by themselves. Some people can through the books. Some people going on the training. Some people take coaches. So that's a process. And it's very, sometimes can happen something ugly, like you get sick and then suddenly from somebody who is 24/7 on work, finding there is a different values in the life than just work. And then suddenly they change. So this is when you change in the moment. So that's the second part. When something really happened, or you can have a coach like with neuro-linguistic or like changing your way of thinking right away. So changing of reframing, for example, or in this case, what we do first as an NLP coaches, we do the breakthrough session when it's also removing all the blocks, what is staying between you and your goal. And then, of course, there is an action. So if you don't have an action, there is nothing happening, because you need to have emotion. That's what is energy in motion. So you need to put the actions and emotions in what are you doing, so to reach that goal. And there will be hiccups. That's why you're removing these blocks. There will be happening, kid is sick, have a fever, or you're stuck in the traffic, or there is always stuff what you cannot control, but then you're still very present on the life and you controlling stuff. You communicate better. Like, for example, you cannot be on the certain business appointment, what is very important, but then instead of hiding or trying to scramble everything and destroy everything, you communicate in a very powerful way that people understand, and you reschedule, or you have now over the Zoom, or there is another, what I'm trying to say, there is another opportunity. There is another way. What we often don't see when we have all these blocks through our filters.
This is my book, How to Be a Warrior of Light in a Dark World. It's available on Amazon. It's about mindset and many other things. It's kind of a handbook on life. I have my second book coming called The Gift of Grief. That's at the editor right now, and that will be published probably within a month or two. So thank you all for joining the Warrior Podcast. Thank you to our sponsors. We'll see you at our next show. I have a chapter in the book called Words. And to me, words are the most powerful force on earth. Spoken words, written words, words in song. Okay. And if we understand that and we become very conscious of our words, we're write very powerful letters. We can have very powerful dialogue, very powerful in negotiations. And I put some of that in the book. But most importantly to me is the words that I speak to myself, like you said. So like one of the words is worry. I don't allow myself to say worry. Well, what do I do to replace worry? I use a replacement word, and it's concern. One of my concerns is because worry is not productive. There is no benefit to worry. So I'll say concern. And when somebody says to me, well, are you worried about, I go, I'm a warrior. We don't worry. We have concerns, but we don't worry. And I correct people.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things. Another thing is bad day. I'll just tell you a quick story. It was a perspective change for me, hearing a World War II Marine tell me about landing on Iwo Jima. Two of the landing craft got blown up. He got out onto the shore. The first thing he saw was a Marine with his legs blown off, bobbing in the water, looking at him for help. And he goes, I didn't have time to help him. He didn't realize that he was already dead, and everything went downhill from there. This is an 80-year-old man telling me about a day in the life of him as a 19-year-old. And when he told me that story, I got the chills. And I said, that is now my new benchmark for bad day. I will never have a bad day.
Yes.
And I've never even thought it. Now, what do I use to replace bad day in my dialogue with myself? I'll go, today was challenging. Today had a lot more movements than I normally have. Or today I learned a lot about myself, but I will never say bad day. And then so I proceed forward every day of my life, never having a bad day. It's pretty glorious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's all changing the dialogue.
Yeah, it's like, you remember when I was talking about persona, ego, shadow?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what you are saying. Like the shadow is like something what we don't want to see or don't want to accept. And it starts showing everywhere. So just to kind of force us to see. It's some people calling that reflection, the mirror work. And when you're comparing like really bad day, what's like when you're reframing yourself, there is, bad and worse. So what I want to say, be very often saying a good or bad day. But if you start to thinking of great and good day, so then you actually move, because everything is in range. So nothing is a real switch. It's more that like a switch.
Mm-hmm.
So you have from to, and then you kind of move to the level what you like. And that's when you start believing that you have a great and good days. There is like, if you have a great day, you cannot have a bad day. It's by default. You only have great and good.
Yeah.
So this is something what we also work on it, like how to create the specter what you actually like, because that's part of the magic life. Because if you define that you have bad people and good people, then you will deal in your life with good and bad people. But if you say, I always meet the great and good people, then you will really start meeting great people and good people.
And it sounds silly when you tell people, you're almost, I don't want to say tricking your brain, but you're programming your brain.
Yeah.
And it is that easy. It takes work, like you said, but the process is simple. It's very simple. Here's the process, but it takes a lot of work, right? I call it mind yoga.
Yeah.
You have to practice it every day and continually for the rest of your life, because life can bump you off course at any given moment, right?
That's 100%. And like I sometimes with my clients, when they're presenting a problem, and I was like, okay, so give me like intensity of that problem. So they're from 0 to 10. And very often when it's a problem, it's like 8, 9, 10. And I was like, okay, so now you see yourself, that's kind of association. You are in your body, you see, you feel, you hear everything. I was like, okay, so now I would like you to just move from your body. So you see yourself, but you're not in your body. You hear everything. You are like feeling, but you see yourself. And I was like, okay, now this is a problem. And I repeat whatever problem is. I was like, okay, so what is intensity of this problem? 2, 3. I was like, see, like when you are actually, and then they're coming up with the solutions because emotions are not there anymore. So they're kind of more observing. Like, we always have a great solutions when somebody has a problem, but when it's our problem, it's like, I have the biggest problem. So that's very similar. You can practice yourself, like with yourself, that when you feel that there is that kind of like a huge pressure, just take yourself out and think about like stuff, what's like, is that like that intense, like you think when you are in your body. And it's very simple, like meditative way, it's very simple to achieve that. So you don't need some years of practice. So it's just kind of you are committed to do the work. Because a lot of people think, okay, I hire a coach, or I'm doing these trainings, or I'm reading this book. But if you don't have that commitment to really do the work and really do the actions, nothing will really change.
I was mentoring a young realtor. She was previously with our office, and she was big into the coaches. She'd go to all these seminars and the rah-rahs. And one day I said to her, you go to these things all the time, like a Les Brown type guys. And I go, are you applying any of this stuff? Or are you just addicted to how you feel when you go to them? And then when you come back, you're like back to like, I need help. Yeah. And she got angry with me. She said, I'm offended, whatever. I said, I'm here to help you. You want my help. And I'm asking you to ask yourself the question. And then she came back in a few days or whatever it was. And she said, you're right. Because I leave the seminars and I'm all, revved up. And then I go right back to and I got to go to another one to get revved up again, but I'm not applying anything.
They're calling them seminar junkies.
Seminar junkies, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so that's how they're calling them. Very often these seminars, they do have a great insights, but without call for action. It's a different when they have call for action and you're not doing it, but very often is like talking and it sounds great, but then if they don't giving you at least one small thing, what you should do within 24 hours or applying later on, nothing really happens. Like you can have the best coach, you can have the best trainer. It's the same like you're going to the gym and the trainer is saying, do the 10 push-ups and it's like, tomorrow. And then like, what will change? That's the trainer can do for you? No.
Right.
They can force you to do it? No.
So you and Andrew do this? Do you have any other people who do this coaching with you?
We have Saide Torres, so she is also part of. She is more. It's kind of a little bit different because she's not NLP coach. So Andrew is a master practitioner of NLP, so he has a decent. He can do the breakthrough session. So we have kind of different approach on that. So regarding certifications, it's kind of more my part of the NLP. But where Andrew and I, for example, specifically change is I start joking about that. I am soul doctor and he's financial doctor because he's very passionate about the wealth building. And for a very long time, for us, that was a conflict in our coaching business because like, I'm really more about the parenting, personal relationships, like involving yourself, your self-talk and everything. And he's all about building a wealth through the real estate and investing and helping people to be financially free so they can do whatever they want with a family. So we kind of going to that point, we want to be happy, but through the two different approaches.
Yeah, that's good though.
And then, and then I realized that we are actually really wealth coaches. I'm more into the relationship, like personal development and like personal soul and emotional side. And he is more on financial and also like a social level. So And that's how we really combine, because I really don't think that person is wealthy if doesn't have a great health, if doesn't have a healthy and like really good family, and doesn't have like a social life or community where it's living. And of course, like if they're not emotionally, I would not say stable. That's kind of stupid word. I kind of looking the word for that. So when you're mentally and emotionally stable, it is stable.
You could say balanced.
Balanced, yeah. So like that, you actually really love your life, or you really want to enjoy in what you have, and really like implementing, like you said, this is what is very important for me. So every second of my life, I want to see, am I on my mission or not? What is for me very sad that people even don't know the purpose of their life. They just live day by day, and they in that dream state of wake up, go to work, come home, pick up the kids if they have kids, like cook, watch TV, wake up, like, so it's kind of like every day. It's almost like hypnosis, and they don't do like, then they suddenly wake up when they're 40 and 50. I was like, where my life is going, and then start searching for the purpose, and really like something what's, I mean, people are lucky when they discover that on the early stage.
Well, yeah, I had Andrew on the podcast, and I can see why he's more focused on the financial, because he lived in his car for a while, right? So that's part of his story.
Yeah, I mean, it's very wild, like how we actually even end up being together. Like when we said two opposites, like the way he was a wild child with trying everything possible during his teenager age, and then me being so conservative and so like rule based, like a kid. I'm literally boring teenager. So you have some wild child doing everything and
Big time.
making the parents really like that crazy with the hair all the way up or hair falling apart. And then you have a kid who is like, doesn't do anything, like, so like the parents even don't know you existing. So like, so that's kind of like example, you're a good student, you good behave, you never have any tantrum. And then for me, like he kind of enjoying in that urge of like making money, but it's not like making money just to making money. He's seeing that purpose of having enough. So you take the friends who maybe cannot afford to go on the certain vacations or do the stuff with the family, so for him it's like really making that money so he can, for example, help one of our non-for-profit what we are like opening now, is to help people, especially elderlies who cannot fix the house. So we can apply for like a grants or do some fundraising so that we will have for people who really cannot afford any. So we can do that for free. And then also having a people with a fair pricing so they don't stressed out in the stage of when, or like even if it's a young couple, because unfortunately sometimes life happens and you, before you know, you are in some really bad hole and you don't see the light. So we would like to offer that light for the people. So for that, yes, you definitely need the money.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to finish with this. It's the question, 1 to 10, 10 being the best. How happy and fulfilled are you?
I will be saying very similar. I would say 7, just because I feel that I didn't master that being present in the moment.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. You haven't?
No, that's like, I'm good and I'm better and better every single day. But not but, and is like that there is a moment when I allow myself to go into the chaos, especially when it's like trips coming and finishing construction. So that's what is my next mastery, so that I have that really full control that I of the time, so that I know when and what, because I can be and then go and just do by default. So that's why I would say I am really happy way happier than I was ever in my life. Did I reach my happiest level? No, I don't think so. Not yet.
Well, I'm judging you as a 10 because you are on your mission. You actually know what you need improvement on.
Yes.
Right? So that's awareness. That's wisdom there too. So
yeah.
We'll put information for what you guys are doing and whatever information you want to put on the internet. And what a pleasure to have you, my friend.
It was my pleasure.
I feel like I made a new friend today.
Yeah,
so
thank you. I will definitely make a friend. So.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us on our podcast today. Remember, there's a warrior inside us all, and we will see you at our next podcast. Thank you, Aleksandra.
Thank you.